So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Proxima What Ifs. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Rimuru went in Eminence in the Shadowverse and rivaled Shadow Group. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Chapter 1. A new world. Rimuru Tempest, the once ordinary human turned extraordinary slime, was enjoying a rare moment of peace in the Rimuru Tempest Federation. His thriving nation had become a beacon of hope and prosperity, with friends and allies from various races working together. However, destiny had different plans. One evening, while Rimuru was reviewing some documents in his office, a sudden and intense energy surge filled the room. Before he could react, a blinding light enveloped him. He felt a strange pulling sensation, and everything around him began to distort. His vision blurred, and a sensation of weightlessness took over. The last thing he heard was the panicked voices of his friends calling out to him. When the light faded, Rimuru found himself in a completely different place. The atmosphere was darker, the air heavier, and the sky perpetually overcast. He was in a dense forest, surrounded by unfamiliar flora and fauna. Despite the disorienting change, Rimuru remained calm, his unique abilities allowing him to quickly assess the situation. Great Sage, what's going on? Where am I? Rimuru asked internally, seeking the guidance of his ever-reliable skill. Answer. You have been transported to an unknown dimension. Current location and circumstances are unclear. An unknown dimension, huh? Rimuru muttered. Guess I'll have to figure things out the hard way. As Rimuru explored the forest, he encountered various creatures, some hostile and some indifferent. His abilities allowed him to easily fend off any threats and gather information about this new world. He noticed the creatures here seemed to possess a dark, almost malevolent energy. It wasn't long before he came across a small village on the edge of the forest. The village was quaint but had an air of tension. The people, while friendly, seemed on edge, constantly glancing over their shoulders and whispering about a group called Shadow Garden. Rimuru's curiosity was piqued. He spent a few days in the village, blending in and gathering more information. Shadow Garden, he learned, was a secretive and powerful organization that operated in the shadows, manipulating events from behind the scenes. Their leader, known only as Shadow, was a figure of legend and fear. Rimuru realized that this world, much like his own, had its own power dynamics and secret wars. But what intrigued him most was the idea of an organization that worked from the shadows. It reminded him of his own experiences and the people he had met who operated in similar ways. One night, as Rimuru was contemplating his next move, he overheard a conversation between two villagers. They spoke of a nearby town that had been taken over by a ruthless gang, and how Shadow Garden had yet to intervene. This was Rimuru's chance to make an impact and gather more information. Using his transformation ability, Rimuru disguised himself as a human and set off toward the town. As he approached, he saw the fear and oppression the gang imposed on the townspeople. His anger boiled. He couldn't stand seeing innocent people suffer. With swift precision, Rimuru infiltrated the gang's headquarters. His abilities allowed him to move unseen, taking down guards silently. He reached the leader's chamber and confronted the gang boss, a brutish man who sneered at Rimuru's presence. You have no idea who you're dealing with, the boss growled, drawing a massive sword. Neither do you, Rimuru replied, his voice calm but laced with menace. The battle was over almost before it began. Rimuru's overwhelming power left the gang leader defeated and the gang in disarray. The townspeople, upon realizing they were free, hailed Rimuru as a hero. But Rimuru knew this was just the beginning. He had made a mark, and soon, Shadow Garden would take notice. As Rimuru left the town, he pondered his next move. He couldn't help but feel that his presence in this world was no accident. There was a purpose to his being here, and he intended to find out what it was. For now, he would build his strength and allies, and perhaps, create his own organization to rival the Shadow Garden. But what Rimuru didn't realize was that his actions had already set a series of events in motion. Far away, in the heart of Shadow Garden's domain, a figure cloaked in darkness watched with interest. The game had begun, and the stakes were higher than Rimuru could imagine. Chapter 2. Assessing the situation, Rimuru wandered through the darkened streets of the town he had just liberated. The cheers of the grateful townspeople still echoed in his mind, but his thoughts were focused on the bigger picture. Shadow Garden. An organization operating in the shadows, much like his own allies back in the Rimuru Tempest Federation. What was their true goal? What kind of power did they wield? Rimuru found a secluded spot and began to analyze the information he had gathered so far. He knew he needed a more comprehensive understanding of this world and its power dynamics. Fortunately, he had an array of skills at his disposal. Great Sage, compile all available data and provide an analysis of the major power structures in this world, Rimuru instructed. Acknowledged. Compiling data, analysis complete. There are 3 primary power structures in this world: the Shadow Garden, the Holy Knights, and the Dark Guilds. Shadow Garden operates from the shadows, influencing events discreetly. The Holy Knights are a powerful faction dedicated to maintaining order and combating evil. The Dark Guilds consist of various criminal organizations vying for control and power. Rimuru pondered this information. The existence of the Holy Knights suggested there were forces actively opposing the darkness, but the Dark Guilds posed a significant threat to stability. Shadow Garden's motives remained unclear, and Rimuru knew that understanding them would be crucial. As Rimuru contemplated his next move, he felt a presence approaching. He turned to see a young woman with long, silver hair and piercing blue eyes. She wore a simple cloak, but there was an aura of power around her. Rimuru sensed that she was no ordinary person. "You're the one who took down the gang, aren't you?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. Rimuru nodded, studying her closely. "Yes, and you are?" "My name is Lyria," she replied. "I've been following the activities of Shadow Garden for a while now. Your actions have caught their attention." "Is that so?" Rimuru said, intrigued. "And why would someone like you be interested in Shadow Garden?" Lyria hesitated for a moment before responding. "I have my reasons. Let's just say I don't agree with their methods. I believe there's a better way to bring about change." Rimuru could sense the sincerity in her words. "Then perhaps we share a common goal. I'm Rimuru Tempest. I intend to form my own organization to rival Shadow Garden and bring balance to this world. Would you be interested in joining me?" Lyria studied Rimuru for a moment before nodding. "I've heard about your abilities, Rimuru. If you're serious about this, then I'm in." With Lyria as his first recruit, Rimuru felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that building a strong team would be crucial to his success. Over the next few days, Rimuru and Lyria worked together to gather more information and recruit additional members for their cause. Their efforts led them to Eric, a brilliant strategist who had grown disillusioned with the Holy Knights; Kale, a formidable warrior with a mysterious past; Alara, an expert in espionage and infiltration; and Saren, a powerful sorceress with a thirst for knowledge. Each of them brought unique skills and abilities, forming a diverse and formidable team. As they continued to grow and plan, Rimuru and his new allies began to make their presence known. They called themselves the Eclipse Order, symbolizing their intent to overshadow the darkness that plagued this world. But just as they were making progress, an unexpected message arrived. A sealed letter, delivered by a shadowy figure, containing a simple but chilling message. "We know what you're up to. Stop now, or face the consequences." Rimuru read the message aloud to his team. "Looks like Shadow Garden is aware of us," he said, his voice calm but determined. "We must be doing something right." Lyria stepped forward, her expression resolute. "We won't back down. We're just getting started." As the Eclipse Order prepared for their next move, they knew they were treading dangerous waters. The shadowy figure who had delivered the message was watching from a distance, reporting back to his master. In the heart of Shadow Garden's domain, the enigmatic leader known as Shadow smiled darkly. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. Chapter 3. Meeting the locals. The Eclipse Order's base, hidden deep within an ancient forest, buzzed with the energy of preparation. Rimuru and his newfound allies were committed to their cause, and each member contributed to the planning and strategizing in their own unique way. Rimuru, understanding the importance of local knowledge, decided to explore the nearby village to gather more information. The village, now free from the gang's oppression, had become a point of interest for both Shadow Garden and the Eclipse Order. Rimuru needed to ensure that the villagers were on their side. He transformed into his human form and set out for the village, accompanied by Lyria and Eric. As they approached, the village seemed more vibrant than before, with people bustling about and a sense of cautious optimism in the air. Rimuru's actions had clearly had a positive impact. Rimuru, Lyria, and Eric made their way to the village square, where a group of villagers had gathered to discuss recent events. The leader of the village, an elderly man named Elder Bram, was addressing the crowd. "We owe our newfound peace to the mysterious hero who saved us," Elder Bram said, his voice filled with gratitude. "But we must remain vigilant. There are still many threats out there." Rimuru stepped forward, catching the attention of the crowd. "Elder Bram, may I have a word?" he asked politely. The elder nodded, recognizing Rimuru from the tales of the village's liberation. "Of course, young man. Please, join us." Rimuru, Lyria, and Eric approached the center of the square, and Rimuru addressed the villagers. "My name is Rimuru Tempest. I, along with my friends, have formed a group called the Eclipse Order. Our goal is to bring balance and peace to this world, starting with protecting places like your village." A murmur of excitement and curiosity spread through the crowd. Elder Bram looked at Rimuru with a mix of respect and hope. "We are grateful for your help, Rimuru. But we have heard of Shadow Garden and the Dark Guilds. How do you plan to stand against such powerful forces?" Rimuru smiled confidently. "With your support and our combined strength, we can make a difference. We aim to protect the innocent and challenge those who threaten peace." One of the villagers, a young woman named Alina, stepped forward. "How can we help? We're just simple folk." "Every bit of help matters," Rimuru replied. "Information, resources, even moral support. Together, we can build a network that can stand against any threat." The villagers nodded in agreement, their fear gradually replaced by a sense of purpose. Rimuru knew that having the villagers on their side would be crucial. He spent the rest of the day with Lyria and Eric, talking to the villagers, learning about their needs and concerns, and offering reassurances. As evening fell, the village square emptied, and Rimuru's group prepared to return to their base. Just as they were about to leave, a sudden commotion erupted near the edge of the village. A group of armed men, clearly from one of the dark guilds, stormed into the village, their intentions unmistakably hostile. Rimuru and his allies immediately moved to intercept them. "Stay back," Rimuru ordered the villagers. "We'll handle this." The leader of the armed men sneered at Rimuru. "You must be the hero everyone's talking about. Let's see if you're as tough as they say." With a swift motion, the leader lunged at Rimuru, but Rimuru was faster. He sidestepped the attack and countered with a powerful blow, sending the man crashing to the ground. Lyria and Eric engaged the other men, their skills honed through countless battles. As the fight raged on, it became clear that the Eclipse Order was more than capable of handling the threat. The armed men, realizing they were outmatched, attempted to retreat, but Rimuru wouldn't let them escape so easily. He captured the leader, hoping to extract valuable information about the Dark Guild's plans. "Who sent you?" Rimuru demanded, his voice cold and commanding. The leader, bruised and defeated, glared at Rimuru. "You'll regret this. The Dark Guilds are everywhere. You can't stop us." Rimuru's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." As the captured man was taken away, Rimuru knew that the conflict was far from over. The Dark Guilds were a formidable enemy, and their influence was widespread. But with the support of the villagers and the strength of the Eclipse Order, Rimuru was determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Unbeknownst to Rimuru, far away in the heart of Shadow Garden's domain, Shadow himself received a report about the Eclipse Order's latest victory. His interest in Rimuru was growing, and he decided it was time to take a more direct approach. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of this world. Chapter 4. A new purpose. Back at the Eclipse Order's hidden base, the atmosphere was charged with a sense of urgency and determination. Rimuru, along with his core team, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, and Saren, convened to discuss their next steps. The encounter with the Dark Guilds had made it clear that their enemies would stop at nothing to maintain their grip on the world. "We need to gather more information about the Dark Guilds and their operations," Rimuru began, looking around the table at his assembled team. "The leader we captured might have valuable intel, but we can't rely on that alone." Eric, the strategist, nodded thoughtfully. "Agreed. We should set up a network of informants and spies to keep tabs on their movements. If we can anticipate their actions, we can counter them more effectively." Alara, the espionage expert, leaned forward. "I can handle that. I have a few contacts who might be willing to help. We just need to make sure they understand the stakes and the benefits of working with us." Rimuru turned to Kale, the enforcer. "Kale, I want you to work on fortifying our base and training our members. We need to be prepared for any direct assaults." Kale nodded, his expression serious. "Consider it done." Saren, the powerful sorceress, spoke up next. "And I'll work on enhancing our magical defenses. If the Dark Guilds have powerful mages, we need to be ready to counter their spells." With their tasks assigned, the team dispersed to carry out their duties. Rimuru felt a sense of satisfaction seeing his team come together with such purpose. However, he knew that they needed to solidify their presence in this world by forging alliances and gaining the trust of other key players. The next day, Rimuru and Lyria decided to visit a nearby town known for its strategic importance and strong defense. The town was governed by a noble named Lord Alistair, who was known for his fairness and strength. Rimuru hoped to gain Lord Alistair's support in their fight against the Dark Guilds. As they arrived at the town, they were greeted by wary guards. "State your business," one of the guards demanded, eyeing them suspiciously. "We seek an audience with Lord Alistair," Rimuru replied calmly. "We have important matters to discuss that concern the safety of this region." After a brief exchange, the guards escorted Rimuru and Lyria to Lord Alistair's manor. The noble, a tall man with a stern demeanor, awaited them in a grand hall. His eyes narrowed as he studied his visitors. "State your purpose," Lord Alistair commanded. Rimuru stepped forward and introduced himself. "I am Rimuru Tempest, leader of the Eclipse Order. We've recently liberated a village from a gang affiliated with the Dark Guilds. Our goal is to bring peace and stability to this world, but we need allies to achieve this. We seek your support." Lord Alistair listened intently, his expression unreadable. "And why should I trust you? Many have made similar claims, only to seek power for themselves." Rimuru met his gaze steadily. "Because we have no interest in ruling. Our aim is to protect the innocent and ensure a balance of power. The Dark Guilds threaten everyone, and we believe that together, we can stand against them." Lyria stepped forward, adding, "We've already started building alliances with local villages and gathering intelligence on the Dark Guilds. We're not asking you to trust us blindly, but to consider the benefits of cooperation." Lord Alistair remained silent for a moment, contemplating their words. Finally, he spoke, "I will consider your proposal. But know this. I will be watching your actions closely. Any hint of betrayal, and you will be dealt with accordingly." Rimuru nodded, understanding the weight of the noble's words. "Thank you, Lord Alistair. We will prove our sincerity through our actions." As they left the manor, Lyria turned to Rimuru. "Do you think you'll support us?" "I believe so," Rimuru replied. "But we need to keep proving ourselves. Actions speak louder than words." Back at their base, the Eclipse Order continued their preparations. Alara returned with news that she had secured a network of informants who were willing to feed them information about the Dark Guild's movements. Kale and Saren had made significant progress in fortifying their base and enhancing their magical defenses. Just as things were starting to fall into place, an urgent message arrived from one of their informants. The Dark Guilds were planning a major operation in a nearby town, intending to seize control and use it as a stronghold. Rimuru gathered his team. "This is our chance to strike a decisive blow against the Dark Guilds and show Lord Alistair and others that we mean business. We need to move quickly and efficiently." As the Eclipse Order prepared to head out, Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be a turning point. Success would solidify their position, but failure could spell disaster. The stage was set for their first major confrontation with the Dark Guilds, and the stakes had never been higher. Chapter 5. The first recruit. Lyria. The Eclipse Order moved swiftly, using the intelligence gathered by Alara's network of informants. The Dark Guild's planned operation would take place in 2 days, giving Rimuru and his team little time to prepare. However, they knew that speed and precision were their allies in this mission. Rimuru, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, and Saren assembled in their strategy room. A large map of the targeted town was spread out before them, marked with key points of interest and potential enemy positions. According to our informants, the Dark Guilds plan to attack at dawn, when the town's defenses are at their weakest, Alara began, pointing to various locations on the map. They'll strike key positions to destabilize the town and then flood in with their main force. Eric, the strategist, studied the map closely. "We need to anticipate their moves and counter them effectively. Our best bet is to set up ambushes at these key locations," he said, marking ambush points. If we can disrupt their initial strike, we can buy time for the town's defenders to regroup and push back. Kale, the enforcer, cracked his knuckles. Leave the front line fighting to me. I'll hold them off long enough for our traps to spring. Saren nodded, her eyes glowing with magical energy. I'll set up magical barriers and traps to weaken their forces and protect our own. Rimuru looked at his team, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. This is our chance to prove ourselves. Let's move out and show the Dark Guilds what the Eclipse Order is capable of. As night fell, the Eclipse Order moved into position. Rimuru and Lyria took the lead, their abilities allowing them to move silently through the shadows. They reached the town's outskirts and split up to set their ambushes and traps. Lyria, the master of illusions, positioned herself in a central location where she could create disorienting illusions to confuse the enemy. As she worked, she thought back to the day she had first met Rimuru. Lyria had been wandering, disillusioned by the world she lived in. She had witnessed too much suffering, too many innocent lives caught in the crossfire of power struggles. Her abilities had always set her apart, and she had often felt like an outsider. When she heard of a mysterious figure who had single-handedly taken down a ruthless gang, she decided to investigate. What she found was Rimuru Tempest, a being unlike any she had ever encountered. His calm demeanor, coupled with his overwhelming power and genuine desire to help, intrigued her. She saw in him a chance to make a real difference, to use her abilities for a greater purpose. Lyria snapped back to the present as she finished setting her illusions. She knew that Rimuru's vision was worth fighting for, and she was determined to see it through. As dawn approached, the first signs of the Dark Guild's forces appeared on the horizon. They moved quickly and confidently, unaware of the traps laid out for them. Rimuru watched from his concealed position, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Dark Guild's vanguard reached the first ambush point, where Kale was waiting. With a fierce battle cry, Kale launched himself at the enemy, his immense strength and combat skills overwhelming the first wave. At the same time, Saren activated her magical traps, ensnaring the enemies in powerful barriers and weakening their resolve. Lyria's illusions added to the chaos, creating the appearance of additional defenders and making it impossible for the attackers to discern reality from illusion. The Dark Guild's forces, confused and disoriented, struggled to maintain their formation. Rimuru, seeing the opportunity, joined the fray. His overwhelming power and combat skills quickly turned the tide of the battle. The remaining Dark Guild's forces, realizing they were outmatched, began to retreat. However, as Rimuru pursued them, a shadowy figure stepped forward from the enemy ranks. It was a high-ranking member of the Dark Guilds, cloaked in darkness and exuding an aura of malevolence. "So, you're the one causing all this trouble," the figure sneered, drawing a wicked-looking blade. "Let's see if you can handle me." Rimuru readied himself for the confrontation, but before he could react, the figure unleashed a powerful attack, forcing Rimuru to go on the defensive. The battle was intense, with Rimuru matching the figure blow for blow. But just as Rimuru thought he had the upper hand, the figure unleashed a dark spell, enveloping the area in shadows. In the confusion, Rimuru lost sight of his opponent. He sensed danger from all directions and realized that this fight was far from over. The shadowy figure's laughter echoed through the darkness. "You'll have to do better than that, Rimuru Tempest. This is only the beginning." Rimuru gritted his teeth, determination burning in his eyes. He knew that the Dark Guilds were more dangerous than he had anticipated, and this was just a taste of the challenges ahead. Chapter 6. Shadows of the past. The air was thick with tension as Rimuru stood amidst the shadows, his eyes scanning for any sign of the dark figure who had challenged him. The town's defenses held firm, thanks to the efforts of the Eclipse Order, but the true test lay in defeating this formidable opponent. "Stay sharp, everyone," Rimuru communicated telepathically to his team. "This one is different." Lyria's illusions flickered as she tried to pierce the veil of darkness. "I can't get a clear read on him. He's using some kind of advanced shadow magic." Kale, recovering from his initial bout of combat, readied his weapon. "Just point me in the right direction." Suddenly, the shadowy figure reappeared, lunging at Rimuru with incredible speed. Rimuru barely managed to parry the attack, his sword clashing against the dark blade of his opponent. Sparks flew as they exchanged blows, each strike reverberating through the air. The dark figure smirked, his eyes gleaming with malice. "You've got some skill, but you're out of your depth, slime." Rimuru's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. He summoned his full power, his aura flaring as he unleashed a barrage of magical attacks. Fire, ice, and lightning surged forth, aiming to overwhelm the shadowy opponent. But the figure deftly dodged and countered, his movements fluid and precise. Impressive, the figure admitted, but not enough. Rimuru realized he needed a different approach. He focused his mind and activated one of his unique skills. Predator. The ability allowed him to absorb and analyze his opponents, gaining their powers and knowledge. He aimed to capture the dark figure, but the opponent anticipated this move. Not so fast. The figure shouted, unleashing a wave of shadow energy that disrupted Rimuru's skill. The force of the attack sent Rimuru staggering back. Rimuru! Lyria cried out, her illusions intensifying as she tried to provide cover. The shadowy figure took advantage of the distraction, aiming a lethal blow at Rimuru. But just as the blade was about to strike, a blinding light erupted from behind, forcing the figure to retreat. Saren stood tall, her hands glowing with arcane energy. Enough of this, Saren declared. We fight together. With renewed determination, Rimuru, Lyria, and Saren launched a coordinated assault. Saren's powerful spells illuminated the shadows, weakening the figure's defenses, while Lyria's illusions disoriented him. Rimuru seized the opportunity to go on the offensive, his strikes more precise and powerful. The figure, realizing he was outmatched, growled in frustration. This isn't over, Tempest. The dark guilds will rise again. With a final burst of shadow energy, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving behind an eerie silence. Rimuru, breathing heavily, surveyed the area, ensuring the threat had truly passed. Is everyone all right? Rimuru asked, his concern evident. We're fine, Kale responded, though his tone was serious, but that was too close. Alara, who had been monitoring the situation from a distance, approached. We need to regroup and analyze what just happened. That opponent was unlike any we've faced before. Rimuru nodded. Agreed. Let's get back to base and debrief. As the Eclipse Order returned to their headquarters, Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning. The Dark Guilds were clearly more dangerous and organized than he had anticipated. Back at the base, the team gathered to discuss the battle. Eric laid out a detailed map, marking the points of engagement and noting the tactics used by the enemy. That shadowy figure had advanced skills and knowledge of our abilities, Eric said. We need to be prepared for more encounters like this. Rimuru agreed. We've made progress, but we're not invincible. We need to strengthen our defenses and gather more intelligence on the Dark Guilds. Lyria, her expression thoughtful, added, and we need to find out who that shadowy figure was. He seemed to know a lot about us. Saren, ever the scholar, offered, I'll research any historical records or legends about shadow magic. There might be clues about our enemy's identity and weaknesses. As they planned their next steps, a sense of unity and resolve settled over the team. They knew the road ahead would be challenging, but they were determined to see it through. Far away, in the heart of Shadow Garden's domain, the enigmatic leader known as Shadow pondered the recent events. He had received the report about the Eclipse Order's victory and the involvement of the dark figure. Interesting, Shadow mused. It seems Rimuru Tempest is a more formidable opponent than I anticipated. This game is getting intriguing. He turned to his advisors, a group of powerful and enigmatic individuals. Prepare our next move. The Eclipse Order must be tested further. As the advisors dispersed to carry out their orders, Shadow's eyes glinted with anticipation. The true battle was only beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. Chapter 7. The trial of strength. The days following the confrontation with the shadowy figure were tense but productive. The Eclipse Order was busy fortifying their base, gathering intelligence, and preparing for their next moves. The threat from the Dark Guilds was far from over, and their next steps needed to be strategic and precise. Rimuru, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, and Saren had been working tirelessly to improve their defenses and gather more allies. The recent battle had revealed just how serious the situation was, and each member of the team was pushing their limits. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rimuru called his team together for a briefing. They gathered in the main hall of their base, where a large table was covered with maps, reports, and various magical artifacts. I've received some troubling news, Rimuru began, his voice grave. One of our informants has discovered that the Dark Guilds are planning a major operation in a nearby city. They intend to seize control and use it as a stronghold for their operations. Eric studied the map. This city is crucial for trade and communication. If the Dark Guilds take it, they could disrupt the entire region. We can't let that happen, Rimuru said firmly. We need to act quickly and decisively. Kale, his muscles tensed with readiness, spoke up. What's the plan? We need to first gather as much information as possible about their forces and their plans, Rimuru replied. We'll launch a reconnaissance mission to infiltrate their ranks and assess their strength. Alara, ever the spy, nodded. I can handle that. I'll set up a few covert operations to gather intelligence. Lyria, her gaze serious, added, and I can use my illusions to provide cover and create diversions if needed. Saren, her hands glowing with magical energy, volunteered. I'll work on enhancing our magical defenses and preparing spells that can counteract their attacks. Rimuru looked at his team, a sense of pride welling up within him. We have a strong team, and we're prepared. Let's move out and make sure the Dark Guild's plans are thwarted. As night fell, the Eclipse Order set out for the city. They moved stealthily, avoiding detection as they approached the enemy's stronghold. The city was a bustling metropolis, with towering buildings and narrow alleyways that provided ample cover for both their reconnaissance and their enemies. Alara led the way, her expertise in espionage allowing her to slip into the shadows and gather crucial information. She discovered that the Dark Guilds had fortified their positions and were planning a coordinated attack on the city's defenses. We need to disrupt their plans, Alara reported back to the team. They're preparing for a massive assault, and we don't have much time. Rimuru nodded. Then we need to act now. Lyria, create a diversion. Saren, get the magical defenses ready. Kale and I will lead the assault. As Lyria began weaving her illusions to confuse and disorient the enemy, Rimuru and Kale prepared for the imminent battle. The city's defenses were fortified, and the Dark Guild's forces were numerous and well prepared. The attack began with a thunderous roar as Rimuru and Kale charged into the fray, their presence striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. Rimuru's magic and Kale's brute strength overwhelmed the Dark Guild's forces, creating a breach in their defenses. Saren's magical barriers and spells provided critical support, shielding their allies and striking down enemies who tried to counterattack. Lyria's illusions continued to wreak havoc among the enemy ranks, further disorienting them. Despite their efforts, the battle was fierce, and the Dark Guilds fought with a desperation born of knowing their plans were at risk. The clash of steel and magic filled the air as both sides fought with everything they had. As Rimuru and Kale pressed forward, they encountered the Dark Guild's leader, a formidable foe with dark armor and a cruel smile. The leader's aura radiated malevolence, and his presence was enough to make even the bravest warriors hesitate. So, you're the heroes everyone's talking about, the leader sneered. Let's see if you can handle me. Rimuru and Kale exchanged determined looks. We'll handle you, Rimuru said firmly. The battle that followed was intense and grueling. The Dark Guild's leader was a skilled combatant, his dark magic and swordsmanship putting Rimuru and Kale to the test. But the two were relentless, their combined strength and coordination pushing the leader back. Just as victory seemed within reach, the Dark Guild's leader unleashed a powerful dark spell that threatened to engulf the entire battlefield. Rimuru, sensing the impending danger, summoned his own magic to counter the attack. The resulting explosion of magical energy illuminated the city, the clash of opposing forces shaking the very ground. Rimuru and Kale struggled to maintain their footing as the leader's spell raged on. In the midst of the chaos, a sudden figure emerged from the shadows. It was a mysterious woman with an ethereal presence, her eyes glowing with a soft, yet intense light. She raised her hand, and a wave of calming energy swept through the battlefield, neutralizing the dark spell and forcing the Dark Guild's leader to retreat. Rimuru, exhausted but relieved, turned to the woman. Who are you? The woman smiled faintly. I am Celine, a guardian of the realm. I've been watching your efforts and decided to lend my aid. Thank you, Rimuru said, gratitude evident in his voice. We couldn't have done it without your help. Celine nodded. The Dark Guilds are a threat to all of us. I will assist you in your fight against them. As the Eclipse Order regrouped and tended to their wounded, Rimuru couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope. With allies like Celine and the strength of his team, they were making significant progress. But the battle was far from over, and the Dark Guild's schemes were far from finished. As Rimuru looked out over the city, he knew that the challenges ahead would test them in ways they had never imagined. Chapter 8. Allies and adversaries. The battle for the city had ended in a hard-fought victory for the Eclipse Order, thanks in large part to the unexpected aid of Selene, the Guardian. As dawn broke over the city, the Eclipse Order began the process of restoring order and assessing the damage. The city's defenders, bolstered by the arrival of Rimuru and his team, were able to begin repairs and fortify their defenses. Rimuru, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, and Saren gathered in the city's command center to debrief and plan their next moves. Selene had joined them, her presence both calming and authoritative. "Your intervention was crucial," Rimuru said, addressing Selene. "Thank you for your help." Selene nodded gracefully. "I sensed the imbalance the Dark Guilds were creating. I've seen their influence spread like a disease. It was necessary to act." Eric, ever the strategist, examined the reports and maps spread out on the table. "We've managed to push them back for now, but their leader mentioned something about an impending ritual. We need to find out more about this." Alara, who had been monitoring the aftermath of the battle, spoke up. "I've gathered some intelligence from the enemy's communications. It seems they were preparing for a large-scale ritual to summon a powerful entity from another realm." Rimuru's eyes widened. "A summoning ritual? That's more dangerous than I thought. We need to prevent that at all costs." Kale clenched his fists. "How do we find out where they're conducting this ritual?" Selene stepped forward, her expression serious. "The Dark Guilds are adept at hiding their true intentions. However, I have knowledge of ancient rites and their corresponding energies. I can help locate the ritual site." With Selene's assistance, the Eclipse Order began their search for the ritual site. They traversed through various landscapes, relying on Selene's magical senses to guide them. The journey was long and arduous, but their determination kept them moving forward. As they approached the suspected location of the ritual, they found themselves in a desolate region, surrounded by eerie silence. The air was heavy with dark magic, and the ground was scorched and barren. "This is the place," Selene said, her voice echoing through the stillness. "The Dark Guilds are close." The team prepared for battle, knowing that they were about to face one of the most significant threats yet. They approached the ritual site cautiously, their senses on high alert. As they neared the center of the site, they saw the Dark Guild's forces gathered around a large, ominous altar. The leader of the Dark Guilds, flanked by several high-ranking members, stood at the altar, chanting an incantation. "We have to stop them before the ritual is complete," Rimuru said, his voice resolute. "Everyone, get ready." The Eclipse Order moved into position, their stealth and coordination allowing them to approach without detection. Rimuru, Lyria, and Selene prepared to launch their assault, while Kale and the others positioned themselves to engage the enemy forces. Just as they were about to strike, the leader of the Dark Guilds completed the incantation, and a dark portal began to form above the altar. The portal swirled with malevolent energy, and a monstrous figure began to emerge from it. "This is not good," Lyria said, her eyes wide with concern. "We need to act now." With a coordinated effort, the Eclipse Order launched their attack. Rimuru unleashed a powerful barrage of magic, while Selene summoned protective wards to shield them from the dark energies emanating from the portal. Lyria's illusions created confusion among the enemy ranks, and Kale charged into the fray, his strength and combat skills driving back the Dark Guild's forces. The battle was fierce, and the emerging entity from the portal was a formidable foe. The dark figure, a massive creature of shadow and flame, roared in fury as it emerged, its presence causing the very ground to tremble. Rimuru and Selene fought with all their might, their combined powers pushing back the monstrous entity. The creature's attacks were devastating, but Rimuru's agility and Selene's defensive magic allowed them to hold their ground. Just as it seemed that the tide of the battle might turn, the creature unleashed a powerful wave of dark energy, threatening to overwhelm everything in its path. Rimuru, realizing the gravity of the situation, summoned his ultimate form, Great Sage, to analyze and counter the creature's attack. As Rimuru prepared to unleash a decisive blow, a sudden burst of light illuminated the battlefield. A figure appeared on the edge of the portal, holding a staff that radiated an intense, pure energy. It was an ancient mage, his appearance both regal and commanding. "You are not alone in this fight," the mage announced, his voice resonating with authority. I have come to aid you." The mage's presence shifted the balance of the battle. His staff's light pushed back the dark energies, providing Rimuru and Selene with the chance they needed. Rimuru launched a powerful attack, his magic piercing through the darkness and striking the monstrous entity with a devastating force. The creature let out a final, ear-splitting roar before being engulfed in a blinding explosion of light. The dark portal collapsed, and the ritual was interrupted. Breathing heavily, Rimuru turned to the mage. "Who are you?" The mage smiled warmly. "I am Eldrick, a member of the Council of Light. We have been watching your efforts and decided to lend our aid. The Dark Guild's influence is a threat to all realms, and we must work together to combat it." Rimuru's eyes glinted with determination. "Thank you, Eldrick. With your help, we might stand a chance against the Dark Guilds." As the Eclipse Order and their new allies regrouped, they knew that they had gained valuable support. However, the threat of the Dark Guilds was far from over, and the challenges ahead would require even greater strength and unity. The battle was won, but the war was far from finished. The true test lay ahead, and the Eclipse Order was prepared to face whatever came next. Chapter 9. The gathering storm. With the ritual thwarted and the monstrous entity defeated, the Eclipse Order, now bolstered by Eldrick and his Council of Light, regrouped in the city's command center. The city itself was in a state of recovery, and the atmosphere was one of cautious optimism. Rimuru, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, Saren, and their new ally Eldrick were gathered around a large map, strategizing their next move. The recent battle had proven that the Dark Guilds were a formidable and well-organized threat, and the stakes were higher than ever. "We've managed to repel the immediate threat," Rimuru began, "but we need to understand the full scope of the Dark Guild's plans and how they intend to continue their assault." Eldrick nodded. "The Dark Guilds have been known to operate in secretive and unpredictable ways. Their summoning rituals are only a part of their broader strategy. We must remain vigilant and gather as much intelligence as possible." Alara, who had been working on gathering information, spoke up. "I've been able to access some intercepted communications from the Dark Guilds. It seems they're planning a series of coordinated attacks across multiple regions to destabilize the entire area." "Coordinated attacks?" Eric said, his brow furrowed. "That would spread our resources thin and make it difficult to mount an effective defense." Kale clenched his fists, his expression grim. "We need to prioritize which areas to defend and where to strike first. We can't let them spread their influence." Saren, her fingers glowing with arcane energy, added, "I can enhance our magical defenses and help locate potential weak points in their strategy. We need to be prepared for both direct confrontations and covert operations." Eldrick raised his staff, and a projection of the region appeared above the table. "I've also consulted with the Council of Light. We believe there may be a key figure orchestrating these attacks. If we can identify and neutralize this leader, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation." Rimuru nodded in agreement. "Then our next step is to identify this figure and gather more intelligence on their plans. We'll need to split our forces to cover more ground." The Eclipse Order, now working in tandem with the Council of Light, began their mission to counter the Dark Guild's plans. Eldrick's guidance and the combined efforts of Rimuru's team allowed them to cover multiple regions effectively. Lyria and Alara conducted covert operations to infiltrate enemy camps and gather intelligence, while Eric and Saren worked on fortifying defenses and preparing for possible attacks. Kale and Rimuru led assault teams to engage the enemy directly, driving back Dark Guild forces and protecting key locations. As they pressed forward, the team encountered numerous challenges and skirmishes. The Dark Guild's attacks were relentless, but the Eclipse Order's coordination and resilience proved to be effective countermeasures. One night, as Rimuru and Kale were inspecting the defenses of a key outpost, a sudden explosion rocked the area. Smoke and debris filled the air, and Rimuru's senses were on high alert. "Ambush!" Kale shouted, drawing his weapon. Rimuru quickly assessed the situation. Dark Guild forces surged through the smoke, their numbers overwhelming. The Eclipse Order's forces fought bravely, but the surprise attack had taken a toll on their defenses. Rimuru, using his enhanced abilities, fought through the chaos, dispatching enemies with precision. He scanned the battlefield for the source of the attack and noticed a shadowy figure directing the enemy forces from a distance. "That must be the one," Rimuru thought. "We need to take them down." As he fought his way through the enemy ranks, the shadowy figure seemed to anticipate his moves, evading capture with ease. Rimuru's frustration grew as he realized that this figure was not only skilled but also aware of their strategies. In the midst of the battle, Eldrick appeared, his staff glowing brightly. "I'll assist you, Rimuru. We must end this now." With Eldrick's support, Rimuru was able to press forward and engage the shadowy figure. The figure, cloaked in darkness, wielded powerful shadow magic, making the fight challenging and intense. Despite the odds, Rimuru and Eldrick managed to corner the figure, their combined efforts forcing the enemy to reveal their true form. The figure was revealed to be a high-ranking member of the Dark Guilds, a master of dark magic with a sinister grin. "You've been a thorn in our side," the figure sneered. "But you're too late. Our plans are already in motion." Rimuru, determined to end the threat, prepared for a final confrontation. The battle was fierce, with dark magic clashing against Rimuru's own powers. The figure's malevolent energy threatened to overwhelm them, but Rimuru and Eldrick fought with unwavering resolve. Just as victory seemed within reach, the figure unleashed a powerful spell, creating a barrier of darkness that trapped Rimuru and Eldrick. The figure's laughter echoed through the darkness. "Your efforts are futile," the figure taunted. "The true battle is yet to come." With the barrier closing in, Rimuru and Eldrick struggled to break free. The figure's shadowy presence loomed ominously, and it became clear that this battle was far from over. Chapter 10. The Shadow's Betrayal. Trapped within the barrier of darkness, Rimuru and Eldrick found themselves facing an overwhelming wave of malevolent energy. The barrier pulsated with dark magic, and the shadowy figure's taunting laughter filled the air. Outside the barrier, the battle raged on, but Rimuru knew that their immediate priority was to escape and continue the fight. Rimuru, assessing the barrier's structure, focused his energy on breaking through. Great Sage, analyzed the dark magic, searching for weaknesses. Eldrick, his staff glowing with concentrated light, worked alongside Rimuru, trying to disrupt the dark magic's flow. "We need to find a way out," Eldrick said, his voice strained but determined. "The barrier is powered by a central conduit. If we can destroy it, we might be able to break free." Rimuru nodded. "I'll focus on attacking the conduit. Keep the barrier from closing in on us." With a coordinated effort, Rimuru unleashed a series of powerful attacks against the barrier's walls, while Eldrick's light magic worked to counteract the dark magic. The struggle was intense, but their combined strength began to make an impact. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, Kale and the rest of the Eclipse Order fought valiantly against the Dark Guild forces. Despite their efforts, the enemy's numbers and the surprise attack had taken a toll. The Dark Guild's high-ranking members were proving to be formidable opponents, and the situation was becoming increasingly dire. Lyria, using her illusions to create confusion, tried to keep the enemy forces at bay. "We need to find a way to get to Rimuru and Eldrick," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "If they're in trouble, we have to help them." Alara, her eyes scanning the battlefield, nodded. "I'm working on locating the barrier's source. It's heavily guarded, but I should be able to pinpoint it." With renewed determination, the team pushed forward, fighting their way through the enemy ranks. They knew that every moment counted, and the stakes were higher than ever. Back inside the barrier, Rimuru and Eldrick continued their relentless assault on the dark magic. The central conduit, a pulsating core of dark energy, loomed before them. It was heavily guarded by shadowy minions, but Rimuru's magic and Eldrick's light spells were making progress. Almost there, Eldrick shouted as he intensified his attacks, "Keep pushing." Rimuru, channeling his energy into a final, powerful strike, aimed directly at the conduit. The impact caused a massive explosion of light and dark energy, and the barrier began to crack and weaken. As the barrier shattered, Rimuru and Eldrick emerged, exhausted but victorious. The shadowy figure, now exposed, scowled in frustration. "You may have won this round, but the Dark Guild's plans are far from finished." Before Rimuru could respond, the shadowy figure vanished into a swirl of dark energy, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. The battlefield was still in chaos, and the Dark Guild forces were regrouping for another assault. Rimuru and Eldrick joined the rest of the team, who had managed to hold their ground despite the overwhelming odds. The Eclipse Order regrouped and prepared for the next wave of attacks. "Are you all right?" Lyria asked, her eyes filled with concern as she approached Rimuru and Eldrick. "We're fine," Rimuru said, catching his breath, "but we need to regroup and reassess our strategy." The dark guilds are more organized than we anticipated. Eldrick nodded in agreement. We've managed to thwart their immediate plans, but they're clearly preparing for something bigger. We must remain vigilant. As the Eclipse Order took stock of their situation and tended to their wounded, Rimuru's mind raced with thoughts of the shadowy figure's warning. The dark guilds were not to be underestimated, and their plans were far-reaching. Just as they were about to plan their next steps, a sudden commotion erupted at the edge of the camp. A figure, cloaked in shadows and wearing a mask, appeared before them. "I bring a message from the dark guilds," the figure said, their voice echoing with an ominous tone. "The time of reckoning is near. Prepare yourselves, for the true storm is about to begin." With that, the figure vanished into the night, leaving the Eclipse Order with a sense of foreboding. The warning was clear. The dark guilds were preparing for a final, decisive confrontation. Rimuru, looking at his team, knew that they were on the brink of a major conflict. The battle they had fought was only a precursor to the greater struggle that lay ahead. The true test of their strength and resolve was yet to come. Chapter 11. Secrets of the Ancient Ruins. The warning from the Dark Guilds left the Eclipse Order in a state of heightened alertness. They knew that the next confrontation would be more intense and challenging. As they fortified their defenses and prepared for the upcoming battles, Rimuru decided that they needed more information and resources to counter the looming threat. Rimuru gathered his core team, Lyria, Eric, Kale, Alara, Saren, and Eldrick, for a strategy meeting. They convened in a secluded chamber within their base, where ancient maps and texts lay scattered across a large table. "The Dark Guilds are planning something big," Rimuru began. "We need to find out what they're up to and gather any resources that might help us. I've been studying some ancient texts, and I believe there's a place that could hold valuable information and artifacts. The ruins of Arcanes." Eldrick's eyes widened with recognition. The ruins of Arcanes? Those are said to be the remnants of an ancient civilization that possessed powerful magic. If we can uncover their secrets, it could give us the edge we need. Eric, ever the strategist, nodded thoughtfully. "It's a risky venture, but it could be worth it. We'll need to move quickly and stealthily." Kale, his muscles tensed with anticipation, added, "I'm ready for whatever comes our way. Let's do this." Alara, always the spy, smiled. "I can help with infiltration and gathering information. The ruins might be guarded or trapped." Lyria and Saren exchanged determined looks. "We'll support with illusions and magical defenses," Lyria said. "Let's make sure we're prepared for anything." With their plan set, the team embarked on their journey to the ruins of Arcanes. The ancient site was located deep within a forest, shrouded in mystery and legend. As they approached, the air grew thick with an eerie sense of history and power. The ruins were vast and labyrinthine, with towering stone structures and intricate carvings that hinted at the ancient civilization's advanced knowledge of magic. The team moved cautiously, aware of the potential dangers that lay within. As they explored the ruins, they encountered various traps and guardians left behind by the ancient civilization. Alara's expertise in espionage and trap disarmament proved invaluable, allowing them to navigate the treacherous pathways. In one of the central chambers, they discovered a massive stone door adorned with mystical symbols. Eldrick examined the symbols closely. These markings indicate that this door leads to the inner sanctum, where the most powerful artifacts and knowledge are likely stored. But it's protected by a powerful magical seal. Rimuru stepped forward, his eyes glowing with determination. "Let's break the seal together. We'll combine our magic and strength." The team focused their energies, channeling their combined magic into the seal. The air crackled with power as the symbols on the door glowed brighter. Finally, with a resounding boom, the seal shattered, and the door slowly creaked open. Inside the inner sanctum, they found an array of ancient artifacts and texts, each pulsing with a faint magical aura. At the center of the chamber stood a large, ornate pedestal with a glowing crystal atop it. Eldrick approached the pedestal, his expression one of awe. This crystal contains the knowledge and power of the ancient civilization. It's a repository of their most guarded secrets. As Eldrick reached out to touch the crystal, a sudden surge of energy erupted from it, enveloping the room in a blinding light. The team shielded their eyes, bracing themselves for whatever was to come. When the light faded, they found themselves standing in what appeared to be a spectral version of the inner sanctum. The walls were translucent, and ghostly figures of the ancient civilization moved about, performing rituals and conducting experiments. "This must be a vision of the past," Rimuru said, his voice echoing in the ethereal space. "We're seeing how the ancient civilization lived and used their magic." One of the ghostly figures, a robed elder, stepped forward and addressed them. "You seek our knowledge, know this. Our power comes with great responsibility. The secrets you uncover here must be used wisely, for they can shape the fate of worlds." The elder extended a spectral hand, and the crystal in the center of the room began to glow with a soft, pulsing light. "Take the crystal and learn from it. But remember, the dark guilds seek this power as well. They must not be allowed to obtain it." With that, the vision faded, and they found themselves back in the inner sanctum. The crystal still glowed, its light a beacon of hope and power. Rimuru carefully took the crystal, feeling its weight and the immense energy within it. "We have what we came for. Let's head back and use this knowledge to strengthen our defenses and prepare for the battle ahead." As they made their way out of the ruins, the weight of their discovery settled on their shoulders. The power they had uncovered was both a blessing and a burden, and they knew that the dark guilds would stop at nothing to claim it. Just as they were about to leave the forest, a sudden chill ran through the air. Dark figures emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. The dark guilds had anticipated their move and were lying in wait. "You think you can just take that crystal and leave?" a voice sneered. It was the shadowy figure from their previous encounter, now flanked by several high-ranking dark guild members. "Hand it over, or face the consequences." Rimuru and his team prepared for battle, knowing that this confrontation would be unlike any they had faced before. The fate of the crystal, and possibly the entire realm, hung in the balance. Chapter 12. The battle for the crystal. The forest around the ruins of Arcanes became a battleground as the Eclipse Order faced off against the dark guilds. The shadowy figure, now revealed to be a powerful dark mage named Malakar, stood at the forefront of the enemy forces. His eyes gleamed with malevolent intent as he fixed his gaze on the glowing crystal in Rimuru's hands. "You've stumbled upon something beyond your comprehension," Malakar taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "Hand over the crystal, and I might let you live." Rimuru's grip tightened around the crystal. "We'll never let this power fall into your hands. We know what you're planning, and we won't allow it." Malakar's smile twisted into a sneer. "Very well, then. Prepare to meet your end." With a wave of his hand, Malakar unleashed a torrent of dark magic. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming monstrous shapes that lunged at the Eclipse Order. Rimuru and his team sprang into action, their training and coordination evident as they countered the attacks. Kale charged forward, his sword blazing with energy as he cleaved through the shadowy minions. Alara darted through the battlefield, her daggers flashing as she struck down enemy mages with precision. Eric and Saren provided support from the rear, launching powerful spells to keep the Dark Guild forces at bay. Eldrick stood beside Rimuru, his staff glowing with radiant light. "We need to focus on Malakar," Eldrick said. "He's the key to their power." Rimuru nodded. "Let's take him down together." The two of them advanced towards Malakar, their combined magic creating a formidable force. Malakar's eyes narrowed as he summoned more dark magic, but Rimuru and Eldrick were relentless. Their attacks collided with Malakar's defenses, creating explosions of light and shadow. As the battle raged on, Lyria used her illusions to create distractions and confusion among the enemy ranks. She projected images of the Eclipse Order members in multiple locations, making it difficult for the Dark Guilds to target the real ones. Despite their efforts, the Dark Guild forces were numerous and well coordinated. It became clear that they had been anticipating this confrontation for some time. The Eclipse Order found themselves gradually being pushed back, their resources stretched thin. Rimuru, sensing the danger, made a split-second decision. "We need to create an opening and get out of here. We can't risk losing the crystal." Eldrick nodded in agreement. "I'll cover our retreat. Get your team out safely." Rimuru signaled to his team. "We're pulling back. Stay close and follow my lead." As the Eclipse Order began their retreat, Eldrick summoned a blinding flash of light that temporarily disoriented the Dark Guild forces. Rimuru led his team through the forest, using his knowledge of the terrain to navigate a safe path. However, as they neared the edge of the forest, Malakar's voice rang out, filled with fury. "You won't escape so easily." Dark tendrils shot out from the shadows, ensnaring Rimuru's team. The crystal's glow intensified as if reacting to the danger, and Rimuru felt a surge of power coursing through him. "We need to break free," Rimuru urged, his voice filled with determination. "Everyone, focus your magic on the tendrils." The Eclipse Order concentrated their energy, combining their magical forces to shatter the dark tendrils. As the tendrils disintegrated, Rimuru turned to face Malakar, who was advancing towards them with a dark aura surrounding him. "This ends now," Rimuru shouted, channeling the crystal's power into a massive blast of energy aimed directly at Malakar. The blast hit Malakar head-on, causing a shockwave that rippled through the forest. For a moment, it seemed as though the dark mage might be defeated. But as the dust settled, Malakar emerged from the shadows, battered but still standing. "You may have power, but you lack control," Malakar sneered. "The crystal's true potential is beyond your grasp." Before Rimuru could respond, Malakar unleashed a powerful spell that created a vortex of darkness around him. The vortex expanded rapidly, threatening to engulf the entire area. "Fall back," Rimuru ordered, realizing the imminent danger. "We need to get clear of the vortex." The Eclipse Order retreated further, narrowly escaping the expanding vortex. The dark energy twisted and writhed, consuming everything in its path. Malakar's laughter echoed through the forest, a chilling reminder of the power they were up against. As they regrouped at a safe distance, Rimuru's mind raced with thoughts of their next move. The crystal was a powerful asset, but Malakar's mastery of dark magic posed a significant threat. "We need to find a way to counter his magic," Rimuru said, his voice filled with determination. "We can't let him use the crystal's power against us." Eldrick, his expression grave, nodded in agreement. "We'll need to study the crystal and learn how to harness its full potential. And we must be prepared for whatever Malakar throws at us next." As the Eclipse Order prepared to continue their journey, Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling that the battle for the crystal was only the beginning. The true confrontation with the Dark Guilds was looming on the horizon, and they would need all their strength and knowledge to emerge victorious. Chapter 13. The enigmatic prophecy. After narrowly escaping the dark vortex conjured by Malakar, the Eclipse Order found temporary refuge in a secluded cavern hidden within the forest. The air was tense with the weight of their recent confrontation, and they knew that Malakar's pursuit was far from over. As they caught their breath and tended to their wounds, Rimuru called for a council meeting to discuss their next steps. The glowing crystal, now a beacon of hope and power, sat in the center of the cavern. Eldrick, examining the crystal, spoke up. "This crystal holds immense knowledge and power, but we need to understand how to use it effectively. We can't afford any mistakes." Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the cavern's entrance for any signs of movement. "We also need to find a safer location. This place is too exposed. Malakar will find us if we stay here for long." Lyria, using her magic to create an illusion of the cave's entrance, added, "I can buy us some time with illusions, but we need a long-term plan." Rimuru, contemplating their situation, remembered the spectral vision they had witnessed in the ruins. The elder in the vision mentioned that the crystal's power comes with great responsibility. "We need to uncover the crystal's secrets and learn to harness its power. There might be more information in the ancient texts we found." Kale, ever eager for action, leaned forward. "We need to split our efforts. Some of us should continue studying the texts while the rest keep watch and prepare for another attack." Eldrick agreed. "I'll focus on deciphering the texts. Rimuru, you should try to connect with the crystal's energy. See if you can unlock any of its secrets." As the team divided their tasks, Rimuru found a quiet corner of the cavern and sat down with the crystal. Closing his eyes, he allowed his mind to delve into the crystal's depths. A flood of images and sensations washed over him. Fragments of ancient spells, forgotten rituals, and echoes of the civilization that once wielded this power. Suddenly, a voice resonated in his mind. It was the elder from the vision. "You seek the knowledge of the ancients. The crystal is a key, but it is also a beacon. Use it wisely, and it will guide you. Abuse it, and it will lead you to ruin." Rimuru focused on the voice. "How can we use the crystal to stop the dark guilds? How do we counter Malakar's dark magic?" The elder's voice responded, cryptic yet clear. "To harness the crystal's power, you must find the heart of Arcanes. It is the source of our magic, hidden deep within the ruins. Only by aligning with its energy can you hope to master the crystal." Rimuru's eyes snapped open, The elder's words echoing in his mind. We need to find the heart of Arcanes. It's the key to mastering the crystal and countering Malakar's dark magic. Eldrick looked up from the ancient texts, his eyes alight with realization. The heart of Arcanes is mentioned in these texts as well. It's described as a powerful nexus of magical energy, capable of amplifying and refining any magic channeled through it. Eric, who had been keeping watch, turned to the group. If we can find this heart, we might stand a chance against Malakar. But getting there won't be easy. The ruins are treacherous, and we're already being hunted. Lyria, her illusions still in place, spoke with determination. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. We need to find the heart and use its power to protect the realm. As they prepared for their journey deeper into the ruins, Rimuru felt a renewed sense of purpose. The heart of Arcanes was their last hope to counter the dark guilds and bring an end to Malakar's reign of terror. But time was running out, and the darkness was closing in. The journey to the heart of the ruins was fraught with danger. The ancient pathways were littered with traps and guarded by spectral entities left behind by the long-lost civilization. Alara's expertise in espionage and trap disarmament once again proved invaluable, allowing them to navigate the labyrinthine corridors. As they delved deeper, the air grew thicker with magic, and the walls of the ruins seemed to pulse with a faint, rhythmic energy. Rimuru, holding the crystal, could feel it resonating with the power of the ruins, guiding them towards their destination. Finally, they arrived at a massive chamber, the heart of the ruins. At its center stood a large, crystalline structure, glowing with an ethereal light. The heart of Arcanes. Eldrick approached the heart, his eyes wide with awe. This is it. The source of the ancient civilization's power. Rimuru stepped forward, holding the crystal out towards the heart. As the two objects resonated with each other, a beam of light connected them, filling the chamber with a blinding brilliance. Ancient runes on the walls began to glow, and the air hummed with energy. But before they could fully comprehend the magnitude of their discovery, a chilling laugh echoed through the chamber. Malakar emerged from the shadows, his eyes blazing with dark intent. You've led me right to it, Malakar sneered. The heart of Arcanes will be mine, and with it, I will plunge this world into eternal darkness. Rimuru and his team readied themselves for battle, knowing that this confrontation would determine the fate of the realm. The power of the heart and the crystal were at stake, and they could not afford to fail. As Malakar prepared to unleash his dark magic, Rimuru felt a surge of determination. They had come too far to be defeated now. The final battle was upon them, and the fate of the realm hung in the balance. Chapter 14. The clash at the heart of Arcanes. The massive chamber, illuminated by the radiant glow of the heart of Arcanes, became the stage for an epic showdown. Malakar's presence cast an oppressive shadow over the ancient ruins, and the tension in the air was palpable. We have to protect the heart at all costs, Rimuru said, his voice filled with resolve. He could feel the immense power resonating from the heart of Arcanes, and he knew that it was their only hope against Malakar. Malakar, standing at the edge of the chamber, raised his hands and summoned a vortex of dark magic. The shadows around him twisted and writhed, forming monstrous shapes that lunged towards the Eclipse Order. You cannot comprehend the power you are dealing with, he sneered. The heart of Arcanes belongs to me. Rimuru, holding the glowing crystal, channeled its energy to form a protective barrier around his team. The barrier shimmered with a radiant light, deflecting the shadowy minions. We need to weaken him before we can strike, he said to his comrades. Focus your attacks on disrupting his magic. Eldrick, his staff glowing with a brilliant light, launched beams of energy at Malakar, aiming to break his concentration. Lyria created illusions to distract and confuse the shadowy minions, while Eric and Saren provided ranged support with their powerful spells. Kale, brandishing his sword, charged forward to engage Malakar directly. His blade clashed with Malakar's dark energy, creating sparks of light and shadow. You won't take the heart, Kale shouted, pushing back against the overwhelming force. Alara, using her agility and stealth, moved through the battlefield, targeting the Dark Guild mages who were supporting Malakar from the shadows. With precision and speed, she struck them down, disrupting their dark spells. Despite their coordinated efforts, Malakar's power was immense. He laughed menacingly, his eyes glowing with dark energy. You are nothing compared to the darkness that I command. Rimuru, feeling the weight of the crystal in his hand, knew they needed to harness the full power of the heart of Arcanes. He focused his mind, connecting with the ancient energy that pulsed through the ruins. The crystal began to resonate more intensely, and Rimuru felt a surge of power coursing through him. "We need to amplify the heart's energy," Rimuru called out. "Everyone, channel your magic into the heart." The team gathered around the heart of Arcanes, their hands glowing with their unique magical auras. Together, they focused their energy, directing it into the crystalline structure. The heart responded, its light growing brighter and more intense. Malakar, sensing the shift in power, unleashed a devastating wave of dark magic aimed directly at the heart. "You will not win," he roared, his voice filled with fury. Rimuru, drawing on the combined power of his team and the heart, raised the crystal high. "Now," he shouted, and a massive beam of radiant energy shot forth, colliding with Malakar's dark magic. The clash of light and shadow created a blinding explosion that shook the entire chamber. As the dust settled, Malakar stood weakened but still defiant. His dark energy flickered and waned, but he refused to relent. "You may have gained the power of the heart, but you are still no match for me." Rimuru, sensing that this was their moment, stepped forward. "This ends now, Malakar. For the sake of our realm, we will stop you." The heart of Arcanes glowed with an almost sentient awareness, and Rimuru could feel its ancient wisdom guiding him. He channeled the heart's energy through the crystal, creating a powerful aura of light around him. With a final, determined strike, he unleashed a concentrated blast of pure energy at Malakar. The dark mage, caught in the beam of light, screamed in agony as the light pierced through his defenses. The shadows around him dissipated, and he was thrown back against the chamber wall, collapsing in a heap. Malakar's form shimmered and faded, his dark power finally extinguished. The chamber fell silent, save for the soft hum of the heart of Arcanes. "We did it," Eldrick said, his voice filled with relief. "Malakar is defeated." Rimuru, still holding the crystal, felt a profound sense of accomplishment, but he knew that their journey was far from over. "We've won this battle, but the dark guilds are still out there. We need to use the knowledge and power of the heart to protect our realm." As they prepared to leave the chamber, the heart of Arcanes pulsed with a gentle light, as if acknowledging their efforts. Rimuru felt a connection to the ancient civilization that had once thrived here, and he knew that they had a responsibility to use this power wisely. The journey ahead would be challenging, but with the heart of Arcanes and the crystal in their possession, the Eclipse Order was ready to face whatever came next. They emerged from the ruins, their spirits renewed and their resolve stronger than ever. But as they stepped into the light of day, a shadow loomed on the horizon, a reminder that their true enemy was still out there, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Chapter 15. Shadows in the light. With the heart of Arcanes secured and Malakar defeated, the Eclipse Order left the ancient ruins behind. They journeyed back through the dense forest, feeling a sense of accomplishment tempered by the knowledge that their struggle was far from over. Rimuru, carrying the glowing crystal, felt its weight both physically and metaphorically. As they approached their hidden base, a sense of unease settled over the group. The forest seemed quieter than usual, the shadows longer and darker. Alara, always alert, noticed the change first. "Something's not right," she murmured, her eyes scanning their surroundings. Rimuru, sensing the same disturbance, nodded. "Stay alert. We don't know what we might be walking into." When they arrived at the base, they found it eerily silent. The guards they had stationed were nowhere to be seen, and the usual hustle and bustle was absent. The Eclipse Order moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready. Inside, they found signs of a struggle, overturned furniture, scorch marks on the walls, and traces of dark magic lingering in the air. Eric knelt beside one of the marks, his brow furrowed. "This was recent. Whoever attacked our base didn't leave long ago." Lyria, using her illusion magic to cloak their presence, said, "We need to find our people. They could be in danger." As they moved deeper into the base, they found several members of the Eclipse Order bound and unconscious. Eldrick quickly began to heal them, while the others kept watch. One of the injured, a young mage named Mira, regained consciousness and immediately warned them. It was the Dark Guilds. They took the others. They're planning something big. Rimuru's eyes narrowed. Where did they take them? Mira pointed to a map on the wall, indicating a remote location on the outskirts of the kingdom. There, they mentioned a ritual, something about a convergence of power. Eldrick, having finished healing Mira, stood up. A convergence of power? That could mean they're trying to harness multiple sources of magic at once. If they succeed, it could be catastrophic. Kale, his fists clenched in anger, said, "We need to stop them before they complete the ritual. We can't let them gain that kind of power." Rimuru agreed. "We'll rescue our comrades and put an end to whatever the Dark Guilds are planning. Let's move out." The journey to the remote location was fraught with tension. The Eclipse Order knew they were heading into a trap, but they had no choice. As they approached the site, they could feel the air thickening with magical energy. The location was an ancient temple, long abandoned and overgrown with vegetation. Dark Guild members were scattered around, setting up for the ritual. At the center, a large altar radiated dark energy, and bound Eclipse Order members were placed around it, their life force being siphoned off to fuel the ritual. Malakar, surprisingly recovered from their previous battle, stood at the center of the altar, chanting in an ancient language. The dark energy swirling around him was more intense than before, enhanced by the captured magic users. "We need to stop the ritual and free our comrades," Rimuru said, his voice filled with determination. "Eldrick, Lyria, focus on breaking the magical bonds. Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren, create a distraction. I'll confront Malakar." The team moved swiftly. Lyria and Eldrick began dismantling the magical restraints holding their comrades, while Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren launched an assault on the Dark Guild members. Explosions of light and shadow filled the air as the two forces clashed. Rimuru approached the altar, the crystal in his hand glowing with a brilliant light. "Malakar, this ends now. You won't succeed in your twisted plans." Malakar's eyes glinted with dark amusement. "You're too late, Rimuru. The ritual is almost complete. Soon, I will wield a power beyond your wildest dreams." Rimuru felt the crystal resonate with the energy of the heart of Arcanes, and he knew what he had to do. He focused his magic, channeling the power of the crystal into a concentrated beam aimed at Malakar. The beam of light pierced through the dark energy, disrupting the ritual. Malakar staggered, his concentration broken, but he quickly recovered. "You think you can stop me? You're nothing without that crystal." As Rimuru prepared for another attack, Malakar unleashed a wave of dark energy that engulfed the entire area. The Eclipse Order members fought valiantly, but the dark magic was overwhelming. In the chaos, Rimuru saw an opportunity. He gathered his remaining strength and focused all his energy into the crystal, creating a protective barrier around his team. "Everyone, focus your magic on the crystal. We can turn his own power against him." The Eclipse Order combined their magic, channeling it through the crystal. The barrier expanded, pushing back the dark energy and creating a shield of light. Malakar, caught off guard, struggled to maintain control of the ritual. With a final surge of power, Rimuru directed the combined energy at Malakar, shattering the dark aura around him. Malakar screamed in rage and pain as the light consumed him, and the dark energy dissipated into the air. The ritual altar crumbled, and the captured Eclipse Order members were freed. The remaining Dark Guild members, seeing their leader defeated, fled in disarray. As the dust settled, the Eclipse Order regrouped, tending to their wounded and assessing the damage. Rimuru, exhausted but victorious, knew that this battle was just the beginning. The Dark Guilds were still out there, and their ambitions remained a threat. But for now, they had won a crucial victory. The power of the heart of Arcanes was in their hands, and with it, they could continue to protect their realm from the forces of darkness. As they prepared to return to their base, Rimuru felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battles ahead would be tough, but with his friends by his side and the ancient power they had uncovered, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 16. Secrets unveiled. The victory at the ancient temple brought a brief moment of respite for the Eclipse Order. They returned to their base, weary but determined, carrying the rescued members and the immense power of the heart of Arcanes. The glow of the crystal, now deeply attuned to Rimuru's energy, was a constant reminder of the responsibility they bore. Back at the base, Eldrick and Lyria worked tirelessly to heal the wounded and restore their strength. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful, with a renewed sense of camaraderie among the members of the Eclipse Order. Rimuru knew that they needed to regroup and strategize for the battles to come. Eldrick approached Rimuru, his expression serious. "We need to learn more about the heart of Arcanes and its true capabilities. If we're going to stand a chance against the Dark Guilds, we must fully understand the power we possess." Rimuru nodded. "Agreed. Let's gather the team and discuss our next steps." In the central chamber of their base, the Eclipse Order assembled. Rimuru stood at the head of the table, the crystal in front of him. We've won a significant battle, but the war is far from over. Malakar might be defeated, but the Dark Guilds are still out there, and they're likely planning their next move. Kale, ever eager for action, leaned forward. We need to strike back while they're weakened. Show them that we won't back down. Alara, more cautious, interjected. We also need to protect our base and ensure that our people are safe. The Dark Guilds could retaliate at any moment. Eldrick, holding an ancient tome he had been studying, spoke up. The Heart of Arcanes is a powerful artifact, but its full potential is still a mystery. According to these texts, there are hidden chambers within the ruins of Arcanes that contain more information about the heart and its creators. Lyria, always perceptive, added, if we can find these chambers, we might uncover new abilities and defenses that could give us an edge. Rimuru, considering their options, made a decision. We'll split our efforts. Eldrick, Lyria, and I will return to the ruins to search for these hidden chambers. Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren will stay here to fortify our defenses and prepare for any attacks. As they prepared for their respective missions, the sense of urgency was palpable. Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling that the next phase of their journey would be even more challenging, but he knew they had to press on, for the sake of their realm and the safety of their people. The journey back to the ruins of Arcanes was uneventful, but the weight of their mission hung heavily over Rimuru, Eldrick, and Lyria. As they approached the familiar site, the heart of Arcanes pulsed with a gentle light, as if guiding them. Inside the ruins, the air was thick with ancient magic. Eldrick led the way, his eyes scanning the walls for any signs of hidden passages. According to the texts, there should be a concealed entrance somewhere in this chamber. Lyria, using her keen senses, noticed a faint outline on one of the walls. Over here. I think I've found something. Rimuru, holding the crystal, approached the wall. As he raised the crystal, the outline glowed faintly, revealing a hidden door. The door slid open with a soft rumble, revealing a staircase leading downward. The hidden chamber was vast, filled with ancient relics and inscriptions. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which lay an ornate, ancient book. Eldrick carefully picked up the book, his eyes wide with excitement. This is it. The knowledge we've been searching for. As Eldrick began to decipher the ancient text, Rimuru and Lyria explored the chamber. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, depicting scenes of powerful mages wielding the heart of Arcanes against formidable foes. Rimuru felt a sense of awe as he studied the carvings. These mages, they were guardians, just like us. They used the heart to protect their realm from darkness. Eldrick, reading from the book, added, it's more than that. The heart of Arcanes can amplify not just magical power, but also the bonds between those who wield it. It thrives on unity and collective strength. Lyria, examining a nearby relic, said, that explains why our combined magic was able to overpower Malakar. The heart amplifies our collective energy. Rimuru, his resolve strengthened, said, we need to harness this power fully. If the heart thrives on unity, we must ensure that our team is more cohesive than ever. As they prepared to leave the chamber, the ground shook violently. A dark energy permeated the air, and the ruins seemed to tremble with an ominous force. Rimuru, Eldrick, and Lyria exchanged worried glances. We need to get back to the base, Rimuru said urgently. Something's happening, and we need to be prepared. Back at the base, Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren were on high alert. The dark energy had reached them, and they knew it was a sign of impending danger. As Rimuru and the others returned, they found the base in a state of readiness. Something's coming, Alara said, her voice tense. We can feel it. Rimuru nodded. We've found crucial information about the heart of Arcanes. We need to use this knowledge to strengthen our defenses and prepare for whatever is coming. Eldrick, holding the ancient book, added, the heart of Arcanes can amplify our collective power. If we work together, we can create a barrier strong enough to withstand any attack. As they began to implement their new strategies, the dark energy intensified. The Eclipse Order knew that a great battle was looming on the horizon, and their newfound knowledge would be put to the ultimate test. In the distance, a shadowy figure watched them, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The true mastermind behind the Dark Guilds had yet to reveal itself, and the Eclipse Order would soon face their greatest challenge. Chapter 17. The storm approaches the air around the Eclipse Order's base crackled with dark energy, growing stronger by the minute. The team, united by the power of the heart of Arcanes and their shared determination, worked tirelessly to fortify their defenses. They knew that the impending attack would be unlike anything they had faced before. Rimuru stood at the center of the base, the crystal in hand, channeling its energy to enhance the protective barriers. Eldrick and Lyria assisted, their combined magic forming intricate patterns that shimmered in the air. Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren kept watch, their senses attuned to any signs of movement. "We're almost ready," Eldrick said, his voice steady despite the tension. "The barriers should hold against any magical assault." Rimuru nodded, feeling the crystal's power coursing through him. "Good. We need to be prepared for anything. The dark guilds won't hold back this time." As the last of the protective barriers snapped into place, a low rumble echoed through the forest. The ground shook, and the air grew colder. A thick fog rolled in, shrouding the base in an eerie haze. Out of the mist emerged dark figures, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. The dark guilds had arrived. At their forefront stood a figure cloaked in shadows, radiating an aura of immense power. Rimuru recognized him immediately. It was not Malakar, but someone even more formidable. A figure from ancient legends known only as the Shadow Sovereign. The Shadow Sovereign's voice boomed through the fog, chilling the air. "Eclipse Order, you have meddled in powers beyond your comprehension. Surrender the heart of Arcanes, or face utter annihilation." Rimuru stepped forward, the crystal glowing brighter in his grasp. "We will never surrender the heart. We will protect this realm from your darkness." The Shadow Sovereign laughed, a sound that echoed ominously. "So be it. Prepare to meet your end." With a wave of his hand, the Shadow Sovereign unleashed a torrent of dark energy that clashed against the barriers. The protective spells held firm, but the force of the attack shook the ground and sent tremors through the air. "Everyone, hold your positions," Rimuru commanded. "Focus your magic on reinforcing the barriers." Kale, his sword gleaming with a magical aura, charged into the fray, cutting down shadowy minions with swift, powerful strikes. Alara moved with unparalleled agility, her daggers slicing through the darkness. Eric and Saren launched coordinated magical attacks, creating bursts of light that disrupted the enemy ranks. Eldrick, his face etched with concentration, chanted an incantation that sent waves of healing energy through their ranks, bolstering their strength. Lyria used her illusion magic to create decoys, confusing the enemy and buying precious time. Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes resonating with the crystal, knew they needed to counter the Shadow Sovereign's dark magic. He called out to his team. "We need to harness the heart's power. Focus your magic on me, and I'll channel it through the crystal." The team gathered around Rimuru, their hands glowing with their unique magical auras. Together, they channeled their energy into the crystal, creating a brilliant light that pushed back against the darkness. The Shadow Sovereign, sensing the shift in power, intensified his assault. Dark tendrils lashed out, striking at the barriers with relentless fury. "You cannot withstand my power," he roared. Rimuru, feeling the weight of the combined magic, focused all his energy into a single point. "Now, let's show him the true power of unity." The crystal pulsed with a radiant light, and a massive beam of energy shot forth, clashing with the Shadow Sovereign's dark magic. The ground trembled, and the air crackled with raw power. The two forces were locked in a fierce struggle, light against dark. As the energy beams collided, Rimuru felt the heart of Arcanes guiding him, amplifying their collective strength. With a final, determined effort, he pushed forward, pouring every ounce of magic into the crystal. The light surged, overpowering the darkness. The Shadow Sovereign screamed in rage and pain as the light enveloped him, shattering his dark aura. The dark figures retreated, their power waning in the face of the Eclipse Order's combined might. The fog lifted, and the dark energy dissipated. The Shadow Sovereign, now weakened and vulnerable, glared at Rimuru. "This isn't over," he hissed before vanishing into the shadows. The Eclipse Order stood victorious but wary. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The Shadow Sovereign's parting words echoed in their minds, a reminder of the dangers that still lurked. As they tended to their wounded and reinforced their defenses, Rimuru knew that they had taken a significant step forward. The power of the heart of Arcanes had proven to be their greatest asset, but they needed to uncover its full potential to ensure their ultimate victory. The storm had passed, but darker days lay ahead. The Eclipse Order would need to stay vigilant, united, and ever prepared for the challenges that awaited them. Chapter 18. The path to mastery. With the Shadow Sovereign's retreat, a tense calm settled over the Eclipse Order's base. The team had proven their strength and unity, but they knew the enemy would return, stronger and more determined than ever. The ancient power of the Heart of Arcanes had saved them, but it was clear they needed to understand it fully to harness its true potential. Rimuru called a meeting in the central chamber, the crystal glowing softly in his hand. The atmosphere was somber, yet hopeful. They had faced a formidable foe and survived, but the Shadow Sovereign's threat still loomed large. "We need to learn everything we can about the Heart of Arcanes," Rimuru began, his gaze sweeping over his comrades. "Eldrick, what did you find in that ancient book?" Eldrick, holding the tome, nodded and opened it to a marked page. The book speaks of a hidden sanctuary where the original guardians of the heart trained. It's said to contain knowledge and artifacts that can unlock the heart's full power. If we can find this sanctuary, we might gain the edge we need. Kale, always eager for action, leaned forward. "Where is this sanctuary? How do we find it?" Lyria, her eyes thoughtful, added, "If it's hidden, it might require a special key or spell to reveal its location." Eldrick nodded. "Exactly. The book mentions a series of trials that the Guardians had to complete to prove their worthiness. These trials are designed to test one's mastery over different forms of magic and unity with their comrades." Rimuru looked at the crystal, feeling its energy resonate with his own. "We have no choice but to take on these trials. We need to unlock the heart's full potential if we hope to stand against the Shadow Sovereign." Alara, ever the strategist, said, "We should prepare thoroughly. The Dark Guilds won't remain idle for long. We need to fortify our base further and ensure that those staying behind can defend it." Eric and Saren exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. "We'll reinforce the barriers and set up additional defenses," Saren said. "The base will be secure while you're gone." With their plan in place, Rimuru, Eldrick, Lyria, Kale, and Alara set out on their quest to find the sanctuary. The journey was long and arduous, taking them through treacherous terrains and magical landscapes. The crystal's glow guided them, its light pulsing in response to their proximity to the sanctuary. After several days of travel, they arrived at a hidden valley, shrouded in mist and surrounded by towering mountains. At its center stood an ancient structure, partially concealed by overgrown vegetation. The sanctuary of the Guardians. Rimuru felt a surge of anticipation. "This is it. Let's proceed carefully." As they approached the entrance, an inscription on the stone door glowed faintly. Eldrick read the ancient language aloud. "Only those who prove their mastery and unity may enter." The door creaked open, revealing a grand hall filled with statues and intricate carvings. The air was thick with magic, and the walls seemed to hum with energy. At the far end of the hall stood 3 stone pedestals, each holding a different artifact. Lyria examined the artifacts. "These must be the keys to the trials. Each one represents a different aspect of magic: elemental, healing, and illusion." Kale, eager to begin, picked up the artifact representing elemental magic. "Let's get started. We've faced worse than this before." Rimuru, holding the crystal, felt a connection to the artifacts. "We'll face these trials together. Remember, unity is our greatest strength." The first trial began as soon as Kale placed the artifact on a pedestal in the center of the hall. The room transformed, and they found themselves in a vast arena filled with elemental challenges. Fire, water, earth, and air swirled around them, each element presenting a unique obstacle. Kale, with his affinity for elemental magic, took the lead. He summoned his power to control the flames, parting a path through the fire. Alara used her agility to navigate the rushing waters, guiding the team safely. Eldrick and Lyria worked together to stabilize the shifting earth and manipulate the winds. As they overcame each obstacle, the arena shifted, revealing a final challenge: a colossal elemental golem, its body composed of all 4 elements. The golem roared, its eyes glowing with fierce intensity. "We need to combine our powers," Rimuru shouted. "Focus your magic on its core." The team united, their magic intertwining. Rimuru channeled the energy of the crystal, amplifying their combined power. The golem staggered under the onslaught, its elemental form destabilizing. With a final, concentrated blast, they struck the golem's core. It shattered, the elemental energies dissipating into the air. The trial was complete, and the arena faded away, returning them to the grand hall. Breathing heavily, Kale grinned. 1 down, 2 to go. Eldrick, picking up the artifact for healing magic, said, "The next trial will test our ability to heal and support each other. We need to stay united and focused." The second trial transported them to a realm filled with injured and sickly creatures, each one needing their help. Eldrick and Lyria took the lead, using their healing magic to mend wounds and cure ailments. Rimuru, Kale, and Alara provided support, gathering herbs and magical ingredients to aid in the healing process. The trial was a test of endurance and compassion. They worked tirelessly, their bond growing stronger with each life they saved. As they healed the last creature, a warm light enveloped them, signaling the completion of the second trial. Back in the grand hall, they took a moment to rest. Alara, picking up the final artifact for illusion magic, said, "The last trial will challenge our perception and ability to see through deception." The final trial began, plunging them into a labyrinth of illusions. The walls shifted and changed, creating false paths and traps. Lyria's expertise in illusion magic guided them, helping the team distinguish reality from deception. Rimuru used the crystal's light to pierce through the illusions, revealing the true path. The labyrinth was filled with phantoms and mirages, each one designed to confuse and mislead. But their unity and trust in each other saw them through. As they reached the heart of the labyrinth, they found the final key, an ancient symbol of unity. With the trials completed, they returned to the grand hall. The pedestals glowed, and the ancient structure began to transform. Hidden chambers and alcoves revealed themselves, filled with scrolls, artifacts, and knowledge. Eldrick, his eyes wide with wonder, said, "This is it. The legacy of the Guardians. We have the knowledge and tools we need." Rimuru, holding the crystal, felt its power resonating with the sanctuary. "We've proven our mastery and unity. Now, we can unlock the full potential of the heart of Arcanes." As they prepared to delve into the newfound knowledge, a shadow loomed at the entrance of the sanctuary. The Shadow Sovereign, battered but not defeated, stood there, his eyes filled with rage. "You may have passed the trials, but your journey ends here," he snarled. The Eclipse Order braced themselves for the battle to come, knowing that the final confrontation was inevitable. The sanctuary's power surged around them, ready to aid in their fight against the darkness. Chapter 19. The final confrontation. The Shadow Sovereign's menacing presence filled the sanctuary, his dark energy clashing against the sacred magic of the ancient hall. The Eclipse Order stood united, their bond stronger than ever after completing the trials. They knew this battle would determine the fate of their realm. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arcanes, felt its power thrumming with energy. "This ends now, Shadow Sovereign. We will protect this realm from your darkness." The Shadow Sovereign's eyes glowed with malevolent intent. "Fools! You think you can stand against me? I will crush you and take the heart of Arcanes for myself." With a wave of his hand, the Shadow Sovereign unleashed a torrent of dark energy. The Eclipse Order scattered, each member ready for battle. Kale charged forward, his sword gleaming with elemental magic. He struck at the Shadow Sovereign, but the dark figure deflected the blow with ease, countering with a blast of shadow that sent Kale sprawling. Alara darted around the battlefield, her daggers flashing as she struck at the Shadow Sovereign from the shadows. But every time she landed a hit, the dark energy absorbed the impact, leaving the Shadow Sovereign unscathed. Eldrick and Lyria combined their magic, casting powerful spells of light and healing. Their attacks forced the Shadow Sovereign to defend, but he quickly retaliated with dark tendrils that wrapped around them, draining their strength. Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes resonating with his team's determination, knew they needed to harness its full power. "Everyone, focus your energy on the heart. We can defeat him together." The Eclipse Order gathered around Rimuru, channeling their magic into the crystal. The heart of Arcanes glowed brighter, its light pushing back against the darkness. The Shadow Sovereign snarled, sensing the shift in power. "You think this will stop me?" he roared, summoning a massive wave of dark energy. It crashed against the sanctuary, shaking its very foundations. The protective magic of the ancient hall flickered, struggling to hold. Rimuru gritted his teeth, feeling the strain of the combined magic. "We can do this. Stay strong." The heart of Arcanes pulsed with a powerful light, and a barrier of pure energy formed around the Eclipse Order. The dark wave smashed against it, but the barrier held firm. The Shadow Sovereign's eyes widened in fury. No. This cannot be. Seizing the moment, Kale, Alara, Eldrick, and Lyria poured their remaining energy into the heart. Rimuru felt the crystal's power surge, and a beam of radiant light shot forth, striking the Shadow Sovereign directly. The dark figure screamed as the light enveloped him, burning away the shadows that cloaked his form. For a moment, it seemed as if they had won. But the Shadow Sovereign's eyes glowed with a final, desperate intensity. "You may have the heart, but you will never truly defeat me," he hissed. "My darkness will always linger, waiting for the moment to strike." With a final, chilling laugh, the Shadow Sovereign exploded into a cloud of dark energy, dissipating into the air. The sanctuary trembled one last time before settling into a calm silence. The Eclipse Order stood victorious but exhausted. They had faced the darkness and emerged triumphant, but they knew the battle had taken its toll. The heart of Arcanes, now fully awakened, pulsed gently in Rimuru's hand. "We did it," Kale said, his voice filled with relief. "We actually did it." Alara nodded, her expression serious. But the Shadow Sovereign's words, "We can't let our guard down. The darkness might return." Eldrick, holding the ancient tome, said, "We've unlocked the knowledge of the Guardians. We can use this to protect our realm and ensure the darkness never rises again." Rimuru, feeling the weight of the heart of Arcanes, looked at his friends. "We've proven that our unity is our greatest strength. As long as we stand together, we can face any challenge." The sanctuary's light filled the hall, a testament to their victory and a promise of the protection they could offer their realm. The Eclipse Order knew their journey was far from over, but they were ready for whatever came next. As they made their way back to their base, the Eclipse Order was greeted with cheers and celebrations. Their comrades had been anxiously awaiting their return, and the news of their victory brought hope and joy to all. Rimuru, standing before his team, raised the heart of Arcanes. "This victory belongs to all of us. We have shown that together, we can overcome any darkness. Let this be a new beginning for our realm." The cheers echoed through the base, a powerful reminder of the strength and unity that bound them all. The Eclipse Order had faced their greatest challenge and emerged stronger, ready to protect their realm from any threat. But as the celebrations continued, Rimuru couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. The Shadow Sovereign's parting words haunted him, a reminder that their victory was not the end, but a new beginning. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges and dangers, but Rimuru knew they would face it together. The heart of Arcanes, now a symbol of their unity, would guide them through the darkness and into the light. Chapter 20. Whispers in the Shadows. The Eclipse Order enjoyed a brief period of peace following their victory over the Shadow Sovereign. Their base buzzed with activity as they fortified defenses and trained for future threats. But beneath the surface, a sense of unease lingered. Rimuru knew that the Shadow Sovereign's parting words were more than a threat. They were a promise of challenges yet to come. Rimuru stood in the main hall, the heart of Arcanes glowing softly in his hand. He could feel its power resonating with his own, a constant reminder of the responsibility he bore. Eldrick approached, carrying the ancient tome that had guided them through the trials. "Rimuru, I've been studying the sanctuary's texts," Eldrick said. "There's mention of a prophecy. A warning about a greater darkness that could be awakened if the heart falls into the wrong hands." Rimuru's expression grew serious. "We need to learn more about this prophecy. If there's an even greater threat, we have to be prepared." Eldrick nodded. "Agreed. I found references to an ancient library hidden deep within the mountains. It's said to contain records of the Guardians and their prophecies. If we can find it, we might uncover crucial information." Lyria, who had been listening, joined them. "We should leave as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the more time our enemies have to regroup." Rimuru turned to Kale, Alara, Eric, and Saren. "We'll need a smaller team for this mission. The rest of you stay here and continue to strengthen our defenses." Kale, always eager for action, grinned. "Count me in. I'm ready for another adventure." Alara, ever the strategist, nodded. "I'll stay and coordinate the defenses. Be careful out there." With their plan set, Rimuru, Eldrick, Lyria, and Kale prepared for the journey. They left the base under the cover of night, moving swiftly through the forest. The path to the ancient library was treacherous, but their determination drove them forward. After days of travel, they reached the mountains. The air was thin and cold, and the rugged terrain tested their endurance. But the heart of Arcanes guided them, its light illuminating the way. As they climbed higher, they noticed signs of an ancient civilization, carvings and statues that hinted at the library's location. Finally, they arrived at the entrance to a hidden cave, marked by a massive stone door covered in intricate symbols. Eldrick examined the symbols, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "This is it," he said. "The library is just beyond this door." Rimuru raised the heart of Arcanes, and the symbols glowed in response. The stone door rumbled open, revealing a vast underground chamber filled with ancient scrolls and artifacts. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and magic. They ventured inside, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Shelves lined the walls, filled with scrolls and books that held the knowledge of the Guardians. At the center of the chamber stood a large, ornate pedestal, upon which lay a massive tome bound in dark leather. Eldrick carefully approached the pedestal, his eyes wide with awe. "This is the Codex of Shadows. It contains the prophecies and secrets of the Guardians." As Eldrick began to read from the Codex, Lyria and Kale explored the chamber, examining the artifacts and scrolls. Rimuru felt a strange sensation, as if the shadows themselves were watching them. "We need to be quick," Rimuru said, sensing the presence of something sinister. "We're not alone here." Eldrick nodded, turning the pages of the Codex. "The prophecy speaks of a great darkness that will rise if the heart of Arcanes is corrupted. It mentions an ancient ritual that can awaken this darkness." Suddenly, the shadows in the chamber began to writhe and shift. A cold, dark energy filled the air, and a voice echoed through the chamber. "You've come far, but you won't leave here alive." A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. Rimuru recognized the presence immediately. It was an echo of the Shadow Sovereign, a remnant of his power left to guard the secrets of the library. "Prepare yourselves," Rimuru shouted, drawing his weapon. The shadowy figure laughed, its form shifting and flickering. "You think you can defy me? The darkness is eternal." Kale, his sword blazing with elemental magic, charged at the figure. His strikes passed through the shadowy form, doing little damage. Lyria used her illusion magic to create decoys, trying to confuse the enemy. Eldrick chanted a spell, sending waves of light to disrupt the shadow's power. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arcanes, felt its energy resonate with the chamber's magic. He knew they needed to combine their powers to defeat this remnant. "Everyone, focus your magic on the heart." As they channeled their energy, the heart of Arcanes glowed brightly. Rimuru directed the light towards the shadowy figure, its form wavering under the assault. The figure screamed in rage, its dark energy dissipating into the air. The chamber fell silent once more, the shadows retreating. Eldrick, holding the Codex, looked up. "We have the knowledge we need. But we must be cautious. The prophecy warns of a darkness that can only be stopped by the true guardians of the heart." Rimuru nodded, his resolve firm. "We'll protect the heart of Arcanes and ensure that the prophecy doesn't come to pass. Let's return to the base and prepare for whatever comes next." As they made their way out of the ancient library, the weight of their discovery hung heavily over them. The Eclipse Order had faced many challenges, but the true test of their strength and unity was still to come. Chapter 21. Shadows of the past. The journey back to the base was fraught with tension. Rimuru, Eldrick, Lyria, and Kale moved swiftly, their minds heavy with the knowledge from the Codex of Shadows. The prophecy they had uncovered spoke of a great darkness that could only be stopped by the true guardians of the heart of Arcanes. Rimuru felt the weight of this responsibility keenly. When they arrived at the base, they were greeted with relief and curiosity by their comrades. Alara, Eric, and Saren had fortified the defenses and ensured that everyone was prepared for any potential threat. As they gathered in the main hall, Rimuru shared what they had learned. "The prophecy warns of a darkness that can be awakened if the heart of Arcanes falls into the wrong hands," Rimuru explained. "We've already seen the power of the Shadow Sovereign. We must be vigilant and prepare for the worst." Eldrick placed the Codex of Shadows on the table, its ancient pages filled with cryptic symbols and illustrations. "This book contains invaluable knowledge. We need to study it thoroughly and understand the rituals and spells that can protect the heart." Alara, ever the strategist, nodded. "We should form a team dedicated to studying the Codex and another to focus on strengthening our defenses and preparing for battle." Rimuru agreed. "Eldrick, Lyria, and I will study the Codex. Alara, you coordinate the defense team. Kale, Eric, and Saren, work with Alara to ensure our base is impregnable. As they set to work, the atmosphere grew tense but determined. The Codex revealed secrets of ancient magic and the history of the Guardians who had protected the heart of Arcanes. They learned of powerful spells that could strengthen their defenses and rituals that could purify the heart if it ever became corrupted. One evening, as Rimuru pored over the Codex with Eldrick and Lyria, a sense of urgency gripped him. The pages seemed to speak to him, revealing a hidden truth about the heart of Arcanes. Look at this, Rimuru said, pointing to a passage in the Codex. It speaks of a hidden chamber within the sanctuary. It's said to contain the essence of the original Guardians, their power and wisdom. Eldrick's eyes widened. If we could access that chamber, we might unlock even greater power. But the entrance is hidden and can only be revealed by someone with a deep connection to the heart. Lyria nodded. We should return to the sanctuary and find this chamber. It could be the key to defeating the darkness. Rimuru felt a surge of determination. We'll leave at first light. This could be our only chance to ensure the heart remains protected. The next morning, Rimuru, Eldrick, Lyria, and Kale set out once more for the sanctuary. The journey was familiar yet filled with a sense of foreboding. When they arrived, the sanctuary seemed to pulse with a welcoming energy, as if recognizing their intent. Rimuru held the heart of Arcanes aloft, and the symbols on the walls glowed brightly. They followed the light to a hidden alcove, where a faint outline of a door appeared. Rimuru placed the heart against the door, and it swung open with a soft, resonant hum. Inside, the chamber was bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. Statues of the original Guardians lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow the intruders. At the center of the room stood a pedestal with a crystal sphere resting on it. Eldrick approached the pedestal, his voice filled with reverence. This must be the essence of the Guardians. It's said to contain their power and wisdom, ready to aid those who are worthy. Rimuru felt the heart of Arcanes resonate with the sphere. We need to combine our magic and connect with the essence. This is our only chance to unlock its power. They joined hands, channeling their energy into the heart of Arcanes. The crystal sphere began to glow, and a warm light enveloped them. Visions of the past filled their minds, images of the original Guardians, their struggles, and their triumphs. As the light faded, Rimuru felt a surge of power and knowledge flow through him. The essence of the Guardians had merged with their own magic, strengthening their bond with the heart of Arcanes. Kale, feeling the new power coursing through him, grinned. This is incredible. We're stronger than ever. Lyria nodded. But we must use this power wisely. The darkness will come for us, and we need to be ready. As they left the hidden chamber, Rimuru felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Eclipse Order was stronger than ever, united by the power of the Guardians and their own unbreakable bond. Back at the base, their comrades sensed the change immediately. The Eclipse Order was more determined, more powerful, and more prepared for the challenges ahead. But as they celebrated their newfound strength, a shadowy figure watched from the distance, its eyes gleaming with malice. The Shadow Sovereign's echo was not truly gone. It lingered in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The final battle was drawing near, and the Eclipse Order would need every ounce of their strength and unity to face it. Chapter 22. Echoes of Darkness. The Eclipse Order's base was abuzz with activity. The return of Rimuru, Eldrick, Lyria, and Kale, brimming with the power and knowledge of the ancient Guardians, had reinvigorated their comrades. As preparations continued, the sense of impending confrontation grew stronger. Rimuru stood before his team in the main hall, the heart of Arcanes glowing brightly in his hand. We have the power and wisdom of the Guardians, but we must remain vigilant. The darkness is still out there, waiting for the moment to strike. Alara, standing beside him, nodded. We've fortified our defenses, and everyone is ready, but we need to stay alert. The Shadow Sovereign's echo won't rest until it destroys us. Kale, eager for action, tightened his grip on his sword. Let it come. We're ready for whatever it throws at us. The days passed in a tense calm. The Eclipse Order trained relentlessly, honing their skills and strengthening their bond. Eldrick and Lyria delved deeper into the Codex, uncovering more secrets and spells that could aid them in the battle to come. One night, as Rimuru was meditating with the heart of Arcanes, he felt a strange presence. The shadows in his room seemed to shift and writhe, and a cold chill ran down his spine. He opened his eyes to find a figure cloaked in darkness standing before him, the Shadow Sovereign's echo. "You think you can hide from me, Rimuru?" the echo hissed. "The darkness is eternal, and it will consume you." Rimuru stood, his resolve unwavering. "We've defeated you once, we'll do it again." The echo laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the room. "You may have the power of the Guardians, but you have no idea what you're up against. The true darkness is awakening, and it will devour everything." Before Rimuru could respond, the echo vanished, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. He knew this was a warning, a prelude to the final confrontation. The next morning, Rimuru gathered his team. "The Shadow Sovereign's echo visited me last night. It warned of a greater darkness that is awakening. We need to be prepared for anything." Alara's eyes narrowed. "We need to set up scouts and increase our patrols. We can't let them catch us off guard." Kale, his determination burning brightly, added, "Let them come. We'll show them the strength of the Eclipse Order." As they set their plans in motion, Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. The prophecy in the Codex had warned of a great darkness, and he knew they were running out of time. Days turned into weeks, and the tension continued to build. The Eclipse Order's scouts reported strange occurrences, shadows moving independently, dark energy pulsating in the air, and a growing sense of unease. One evening, as the sun set and darkness enveloped the base, a loud explosion rocked the ground. The alarm bells rang out, and the Eclipse Order sprang into action. Rimuru, with the heart of Arcanes in hand, led the charge. Outside, they found themselves facing a horde of dark creatures, twisted and grotesque forms born from the shadows. At their center stood the Shadow Sovereign's echo, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. "This ends now, Rimuru," the echo snarled. "The true darkness is upon you." The battle erupted in chaos. Kale charged at the dark creatures, his sword blazing with elemental magic. Alara darted through the battlefield, her daggers striking with deadly precision. Eldrick and Lyria chanted spells of light and healing, their magic pushing back against the darkness. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arcanes, felt its power surge through him. He unleashed beams of radiant light, cutting through the shadowy horde. But the echo of the Shadow Sovereign was relentless, its dark energy growing stronger with each passing moment. As the battle raged on, Rimuru realized they needed to focus their power on the echo. "Everyone, target the Shadow Sovereign's echo. We need to destroy it once and for all." The Eclipse Order united their efforts, their combined magic striking at the echo. But the dark figure laughed, absorbing their attacks. "You think you can defeat me? The darkness is eternal?" Rimuru, feeling the weight of the heart of Arcanes, knew they needed to use the essence of the Guardians. "Everyone, channel your energy into the heart. We need the Guardians' power." As they focused their magic, the heart of Arcanes glowed brightly. The essence of the Guardians merged with their own power, creating a beam of pure, radiant energy. Rimuru directed the beam at the echo, its dark form wavering under the assault. The echo screamed, its dark energy unraveling. "No, this cannot be. The darkness will return." With a final, concentrated blast, the echo disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the night. The remaining dark creatures vanished, leaving the battlefield silent and still. Breathing heavily, Kale looked around. "Is it over?" Eldrick, holding the codex, shook his head. "The echo is gone, but the true darkness is still out there. We've delayed it, but we haven't defeated it yet." Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes' pulse in his hand, knew Eldrick was right. The final confrontation was still to come, and they needed to be ready. As they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a sense of determination filled the Eclipse Order. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the true test was still ahead. Chapter 23. The gathering storm. The victory over the Shadow Sovereign's echo brought a brief respite, but the Eclipse Order knew the true battle was still ahead. The warnings from the Codex of Shadows and the chilling words of the echo had left a lingering sense of dread. Rimuru and his team prepared for the impending confrontation, their resolve stronger than ever. In the days that followed, the Eclipse Order focused on fortifying their defenses and studying the Codex. Eldrick, Lyria, and Rimuru spent countless hours poring over the ancient texts, searching for any clues or spells that could aid them. Alara, Kale, Eric, and Saren worked tirelessly to strengthen the base and train their comrades. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Casting long shadows over the base, Rimuru gathered his core team in the main hall. The heart of Arcanes glowed softly in his hand, a constant reminder of their mission. "We've done well to prepare, but we can't let our guard down," Rimuru said, his voice steady. "The true darkness is still out there, and it's only a matter of time before it strikes." Eldrick nodded, his eyes scanning the pages of the Codex. "We've discovered a ritual that could help us. It's called the Light of the Guardians. It's a powerful spell that can strengthen our defenses and purify the heart of Arcanes." Lyria added, "But the ritual requires a significant amount of energy. We'll need to combine our magic and the heart's power to perform it." Kale, always ready for action, grinned. "Then let's do it. Whatever it takes to protect our realm." Alara, ever the strategist, looked thoughtful. "We should perform the ritual as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the more vulnerable we become." Rimuru agreed. "We'll gather everyone tonight. The ritual must be performed at the sanctuary, where the Guardian's power is strongest." As night fell, the Eclipse Order made their way to the sanctuary. The moon cast an ethereal glow over the ancient structure, illuminating the path. The air was thick with anticipation and a sense of impending destiny. They gathered in the main hall of the sanctuary, forming a circle around the heart of Arcanes. Eldrick began to chant, his voice resonating with the ancient magic of the place. Lyria and Rimuru joined in, their combined energy flowing into the heart. The heart of Arcanes glowed brighter, pulsing with a powerful light. The sanctuary's walls seemed to hum with energy, the symbols etched into the stone glowing in response. The air crackled with magic, and a sense of unity and strength filled the room. As the ritual reached its peak, a beam of radiant light shot forth from the heart, illuminating the entire sanctuary. The light spread outwards, creating a protective barrier around the sanctuary and the Eclipse Order's base. The energy of the Guardians merged with their own, creating a powerful shield against the darkness. Eldrick's voice echoed through the hall. "The light of the Guardians will protect us, but we must remain vigilant. The true darkness is still out there, waiting for its chance to strike." As the ritual ended, the Eclipse Order felt a renewed sense of purpose and strength. The light of the Guardians had bolstered their defenses and their spirits, but they knew the battle was far from over. The following days were filled with an eerie calm. The protective barrier created by the light of the Guardians stood strong, but the sense of impending danger lingered. The Eclipse Order continued their preparations, knowing that the final confrontation was drawing near. One night, as Rimuru was standing watch, he felt a familiar chill in the air. The shadows around him began to shift and writhe, and a voice echoed in his mind. "You cannot escape your fate, Rimuru. The true darkness is awakening, and it will consume everything." Rimuru turned to see a figure cloaked in darkness standing before him, the true Shadow Sovereign, more powerful and menacing than ever. His eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and a dark energy pulsated around him. "We defeated you once," Rimuru said, his voice steady. "We'll do it again." The Shadow Sovereign laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Rimuru's spine. "You may have the power of the Guardians, but it won't be enough. The darkness is eternal, and it will devour you." Rimuru raised the heart of Arcanes, its light pushing back against the darkness. "We'll see about that." As the Shadow Sovereign vanished, Rimuru knew the final battle was imminent. The Eclipse Order had prepared as best they could, but the true test of their strength and unity was still to come. He gathered his team, his resolve unwavering. "The Shadow Sovereign is coming. We must be ready. This is our final stand." The Eclipse Order stood united, their determination burning brightly. They had faced countless challenges and emerged stronger each time. Now, they were ready to face the ultimate darkness and protect their realm. As they prepared for the battle ahead, a sense of destiny filled the air. The final confrontation was upon them, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance. Chapter 24, Prelude to Darkness. The Eclipse Order's base was a fortress of light, surrounded by the protective barrier created by the light of the Guardians. The members of the Order were united and ready for the impending battle. Despite the calm before the storm, a palpable sense of tension filled the air. Rimuru and his core team spent every waking moment preparing for the final confrontation with the true Shadow Sovereign. One evening, Rimuru stood on a hill overlooking the base. The heart of Arcanes pulsed in his hand, its light steady and reassuring. Eldrick joined him, carrying the Codex of Shadows. "We've done everything we can to prepare," Eldrick said, his voice steady but tinged with concern. "But the Shadow Sovereign is unlike anything we've faced before. Its power is immense." Rimuru nodded. "I know. But we have the power of the Guardians in our unity. We've faced darkness before and emerged victorious. We can do it again." As they spoke, Lyria approached, her eyes filled with determination. "The scouts have reported strange activity in the forest. Shadows moving independently, dark energy pulsating in the air. It's only a matter of time before the Shadow Sovereign strikes." Rimuru turned to his companions. "We need to be ready. Alara, Kale, Eric, and Saren have done an excellent job strengthening our defenses. We need to trust in our preparations and in each other." That night, the Eclipse Order gathered in the main hall for a final briefing. Alara stood before them, her voice calm and authoritative. "We've fortified our defenses and set up patrols. The barrier created by the light of the Guardians will hold, but we must remain vigilant. The Shadow Sovereign will come at us with everything it has." Kale, his sword glowing with elemental magic, spoke up. "We've trained hard and prepared well. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it together." Eric, his face set with determination, added, "We've faced darkness before. We know what we're up against. We just need to stay focused and trust in each other." Saren, ever the optimist, smiled. "We've got this. We're stronger than we've ever been." As the meeting concluded, Rimuru addressed his team. "The Shadow Sovereign is coming. We must stand united and protect our realm. We have the power of the Guardians, and our bond is unbreakable. Let's show the darkness what the Eclipse Order is capable of." The following days were filled with anticipation and preparation. The Eclipse Order remained on high alert, their senses attuned to any sign of the approaching darkness. The protective barrier glowed softly, a constant reminder of the Guardian's power. One night, as Rimuru was patrolling the base, he felt a familiar chill in the air. The shadows around him began to shift and writhe, and a dark energy filled the air. He knew the time had come. He raised the alarm, and the Eclipse Order sprang into action. The protective barrier flared brightly, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. Rimuru, with the heart of Arcanes in hand, led his team to the front lines. The forest beyond the barrier was shrouded in darkness, and a sense of foreboding filled the air. The ground trembled as the Shadow Sovereign emerged, its form more menacing and powerful than ever. Its eyes glowed with malevolent intent, and a dark energy pulsated around it. "You cannot escape your fate, Rimuru," the Shadow Sovereign hissed. "The darkness is eternal, and it will consume you all." Rimuru stood tall, his resolve unwavering. "We've defeated you before. We'll do it again. The light will prevail." The Shadow Sovereign laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the night. "You may have the power of the Guardians, but it won't be enough. The true darkness is upon you." As the battle began, the Eclipse Order fought with all their strength and determination. Kale's sword blazed with elemental magic, cutting through the dark creatures that surged forward. Alara moved with lethal grace, her daggers striking with deadly precision. Eric and Saren combined their magic, creating powerful attacks that pushed back against the darkness. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arcanes, felt its power surge through him. He unleashed beams of radiant light, striking at the Shadow Sovereign. But the dark figure absorbed the attacks, its power growing stronger with each moment. "We need to focus our power on the heart," Rimuru shouted. "Everyone, channel your energy into the heart of Arcanes." The Eclipse Order united their efforts, their combined magic flowing into the heart. The heart of Arcanes glowed brighter, its light pushing back against the darkness. But the Shadow Sovereign's power was immense, and it continued to press forward. As the battle raged on, Rimuru realized they needed to use the essence of the Guardians. "Everyone, we need the Guardians' power. Focus your energy on the heart and the essence of the Guardians." As they channeled their magic, the heart of Arcanes glowed even brighter. The essence of the Guardians merged with their own power, creating a beam of pure, radiant energy. Rimuru directed the beam at the Shadow Sovereign, its dark form wavering under the assault. The Shadow Sovereign screamed, its dark energy unraveling. "No, this cannot be. The darkness will return." With a final, concentrated blast, the Shadow Sovereign disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the night. The remaining dark creatures vanished, leaving the battlefield silent and still. Breathing heavily, Kale looked around. "Is it over?" Eldrick, holding the codex, shook his head. The Shadow Sovereign is defeated, but the true darkness is still out there. We've delayed it, but we haven't defeated it yet. Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arkane's pulse in his hand, knew Eldrick was right. The final confrontation was still to come, and they needed to be ready. As they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a sense of determination filled the Eclipse Order. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the true test was still ahead. The final battle was approaching, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance. Chapter 25. The True Shadow. The Eclipse Order's victory over the Shadow Sovereign brought a momentary calm, but the warning from Eldrick echoed in everyone's mind. The true darkness was still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. Rimuru knew they had to be prepared for the ultimate battle, one that would determine the fate of their realm. The base was bustling with activity as everyone focused on strengthening their defenses and honing their skills. The protective barrier created by the light of the Guardians continued to glow, a beacon of hope and strength. One morning, as Rimuru was walking through the base, he sensed a familiar presence. The heart of Arkanes pulsed in his hand, guiding him to the sanctuary. Inside, Eldrick and Lyria were deep in discussion over the Codex of Shadows. "Rimuru, we've found something," Eldrick said, his eyes wide with excitement. "There's a passage in the Codex that speaks of a final ritual, the Guardian's Ascension. It's a powerful spell that can enhance our abilities and give us a fighting chance against the true darkness." Lyria nodded. "But it's risky. The ritual requires immense energy and absolute unity among us. If we succeed, we'll be able to confront the true darkness head-on. But if we fail..." Rimuru understood the stakes. "We have no choice. We need every advantage we can get. Let's gather the team and prepare for the ritual." As night fell, the Eclipse Order assembled in the sanctuary. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and determination. The heart of Arkanes glowed brightly at the center, its light illuminating the ancient symbols on the walls. Eldrick began the incantation, his voice resonating with the magic of the Codex. Lyria, Rimuru, and the rest of the team joined in, their combined energy flowing into the heart. The sanctuary pulsed with power, the symbols glowing in response. The ritual reached its peak, and a beam of radiant light shot forth from the heart, enveloping the Eclipse Order. The energy of the Guardians merged with their own, enhancing their abilities and strengthening their bond. As the light faded, Rimuru felt a surge of power coursing through him. The Guardian's ascension had succeeded, and the Eclipse Order was stronger than ever. Kale grinned, feeling the newfound strength in his limbs. "This is incredible. We're ready for whatever comes our way." Alara, her eyes glowing with determination, added, "We need to stay alert. The true darkness won't wait long to strike." The following days were filled with a tense calm. The Eclipse Order continued their preparations, knowing that the final confrontation was imminent. The protective barrier held strong, but the sense of impending danger grew with each passing moment. One evening, as the sun set and darkness enveloped the base, a strange phenomenon occurred. The barrier began to flicker, its light dimming. Rimuru and his team rushed to the front lines, their senses on high alert. The ground trembled, and a dark energy filled the air. From the depths of the forest emerged a figure cloaked in shadows, the true Shadow Sovereign. Its form was more terrifying and powerful than before, its eyes burning with malevolent intent. "You cannot escape your fate, Rimuru," the Shadow Sovereign hissed. "The darkness is eternal, and it will consume everything." Rimuru stood tall, the heart of Arkanes glowing brightly in his hand. "We've defeated your echoes. We'll defeat you too. The light will prevail." The Shadow Sovereign laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down everyone's spine. "You may have the power of the Guardians, but it won't be enough. The true darkness is upon you." As the battle began, the Eclipse Order fought with all their might. Kale's sword blazed with elemental magic, cutting through the dark creatures that surged forward. Alara moved with lethal grace, her daggers striking with deadly precision. Eric and Saren combined their magic, creating powerful attacks that pushed back against the darkness. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arkanes, felt its power surge through him. He unleashed beams of radiant light, striking at the Shadow Sovereign. But the dark figure absorbed the attacks, its power growing stronger with each moment. "We need to focus our power on the heart," Rimuru shouted. "Everyone, channel your energy into the heart of Arkanes." The Eclipse Order united their efforts, their combined magic flowing into the heart. The heart of Arkanes glowed brighter, its light pushing back against the darkness. But the Shadow Sovereign's power was immense, and it continued to press forward. As the battle raged on, Rimuru realized they needed to use the essence of the Guardians once more. Everyone, we need the Guardians' power. Focus your energy on the heart and the essence of the Guardians. As they channeled their magic, the heart of Arcanes glowed even brighter. The essence of the Guardians merged with their own power, creating a beam of pure, radiant energy. Rimuru directed the beam at the Shadow Sovereign, its dark form wavering under the assault. The Shadow Sovereign screamed, its dark energy unraveling. No, this cannot be. The darkness will return. With a final, concentrated blast, the Shadow Sovereign disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the night. The remaining dark creatures vanished, leaving the battlefield silent and still. Breathing heavily, Kale looked around. Is it over? Eldrick, holding the codex, shook his head. The Shadow Sovereign is defeated, but the true darkness is still out there. We've delayed it, but we haven't defeated it yet. Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes' pulse in his hand, knew Eldrick was right. The final confrontation was still to come, and they needed to be ready. As they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a sense of determination filled the Eclipse Order. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the true test was still ahead. The final battle was approaching, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance. Chapter 26. Shadows within the defeat of the Shadow Sovereign brought a fleeting sense of victory, but the lingering threat of the true darkness hung over the Eclipse Order like a shroud. Rimuru and his team remained vigilant, knowing that their ultimate challenge was yet to come. The protective barrier, bolstered by the light of the Guardians, stood firm, but the members of the Eclipse Order knew they couldn't rely solely on their defenses. They continued their training, honing their skills and strategies for the final battle. One morning, as Rimuru was overseeing a training session, Alara approached with a grave expression. Rimuru, we need to talk. There have been reports of strange behavior among some of our members. They're acting off. Rimuru frowned. What do you mean? Alara lowered her voice. Several members have been seen talking to themselves, staring into space, and exhibiting unusual aggression. I fear the darkness might be infiltrating our ranks. Rimuru's eyes narrowed. We need to investigate this immediately. Gather Eldrick, Lyria, and the others. We need to get to the bottom of this. The core team convened in the main hall, where Alara presented her findings. Eldrick and Lyria listened intently, their expressions growing more serious with each detail. It sounds like the darkness is trying to sow discord within our ranks, Eldrick said. We need to identify the source and neutralize it before it spreads. Lyria nodded. I can perform a purification ritual to cleanse those affected, but we need to isolate them first. Kale, ever eager for action, clenched his fists. Let's find these infiltrators and put an end to this. Rimuru addressed the team. We'll start with a thorough examination of everyone in the base. Eldrick, Lyria, and I will conduct the assessments. Alara, Kale, Eric, and Saren, you handle security and keep an eye out for any unusual behavior. The next few days were tense as the Eclipse Order conducted their investigation. Eldrick, Lyria, and Rimuru interviewed each member, looking for signs of corruption. The process was slow and meticulous, but they knew it was necessary to root out the darkness. One evening, as they were wrapping up their assessments, Rimuru sensed a disturbance. The heart of Arcanes pulsed in his hand, alerting him to a dark presence nearby. He followed the sensation to the training grounds, where he found Kale standing over a prone figure, his sword drawn. Kale, what's going on? Rimuru demanded. Kale looked up, his expression grim. I caught him trying to sabotage our supplies. He was muttering something about the darkness. The prone figure, a young recruit named Jareth, looked up at Rimuru with wild eyes. The darkness is coming, it's inside us all. Rimuru knelt beside Jareth, placing a hand on his forehead. He could feel the dark energy coursing through the recruit, corrupting his mind. Lyria, we need you here. Lyria hurried over and began the purification ritual, her magic enveloping Jareth in a soft glow. The dark energy slowly dissipated, and Jareth's eyes cleared. Thank you, I'm sorry, Jareth whispered, tears streaming down his face. Rimuru helped him to his feet. It's not your fault. The darkness is insidious. We need to remain vigilant and support each other. The incident with Jareth was a wake-up call for the Eclipse Order. They intensified their efforts to identify and cleanse any remaining corruption. Lyria's purification rituals became a daily occurrence, and Eldrick worked tirelessly to strengthen their defenses against the dark influence. Despite their vigilance, the darkness continued to test their resolve. Strange occurrences and unsettling behavior persisted, keeping the members of the Eclipse Order on edge. Rimuru knew they were in a race against time to uncover the true source of the corruption. One night, as Rimuru was meditating with the heart of Arcanes, he felt a sudden, overwhelming surge of dark energy. The shadows around him began to writhe, and a chilling voice echoed in his mind. "You think you can cleanse the darkness, Rimuru? It's already inside you." Rimuru's eyes snapped open, and he found himself face to face with a shadowy figure, a twisted, dark version of himself. The doppelganger's eyes glowed with malevolence, and a dark energy pulsed around it. "You cannot escape your fate," the shadowy figure hissed. "The darkness will consume you all." Rimuru stood, his resolve unwavering. "We've faced the darkness before and emerged stronger. We'll do it again." The dark doppelganger laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the room. "You may have the power of the Guardians, but you cannot escape the darkness within." As the figure lunged at him, Rimuru raised the heart of Arcanes, its light pushing back against the darkness. But the shadowy figure was relentless, its dark energy matching Rimuru's every move. Rimuru knew he couldn't defeat this manifestation alone. He reached out with his mind, calling for his team. Within moments, Alara, Kale, Eldrick, Lyria, Eric, and Saren burst into the room, their weapons and magic at the ready. "We're with you, Rimuru," Alara said, her eyes blazing with determination. Together, they focused their energy on the heart of Arcanes, its light growing brighter and more intense. The dark doppelganger screamed, its form wavering under the assault of their combined power. "You cannot defeat the darkness within," it shrieked. "It will return." With a final, concentrated blast of light, the dark figure disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the night. The room fell silent, and the members of the Eclipse Order stood victorious. Breathing heavily, Kale looked around. "Is it over?" Eldrick, holding the codex, shook his head. "The true darkness is still out there. We've faced a manifestation, but the source remains. We need to stay vigilant." Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes' pulse in his hand, knew Eldrick was right. The final confrontation was still to come, and they needed to be ready. As they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a sense of determination filled the Eclipse Order. They had faced the darkness within and emerged victorious, but the true test was still ahead. The final battle was approaching, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance. Chapter 27. The gathering storm. The victory over the shadowy doppelganger had bolstered the Eclipse Order's morale, but the true darkness still loomed over them like a storm on the horizon. Rimuru and his team knew that they had only won a battle, not the war. The source of the darkness was still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the days that followed, the Eclipse Order continued their preparations with renewed determination. The protective barrier, strengthened by the light of the Guardians, stood as a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. Training sessions intensified, with each member pushing their limits to become stronger and more united. One evening, as Rimuru was reviewing strategies with Eldrick, Lyria, and Alara, a scout rushed into the room, breathless and wide-eyed. "We've spotted movement in the forest. It looks like an army of shadow creatures heading our way." Rimuru's eyes narrowed. "How many?" The scout shook his head. "Too many to count. They're swarming from all directions. It's like they're being drawn to something." Eldrick's face darkened. "The true darkness must be orchestrating this attack. We need to prepare for an all-out assault." Rimuru nodded. "Gather everyone. This is it. We need to defend the base at all costs." As the Eclipse Order mobilized, the tension in the air was palpable. Every member took their positions, weapons at the ready, their faces set with determination. The protective barrier glowed brightly, a beacon of hope against the encroaching shadows. From the forest emerged a sea of shadow creatures, their dark forms shifting and writhing. At their forefront stood the true Shadow Sovereign, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. The ground trembled with each step it took, and a chilling silence fell over the battlefield. "You cannot escape the darkness," the Shadow Sovereign hissed, its voice echoing through the night. "It will consume you all." Rimuru stepped forward, the heart of Arcanes glowing brightly in his hand. "We've faced you before and emerged stronger. We'll do it again. The light will prevail. The battle began with a deafening roar as the shadow creatures surged forward, crashing against the protective barrier. The members of the Eclipse Order fought with all their might, their weapons and magic cutting through the dark creatures. Kale's sword blazed with elemental magic, Alara's daggers struck with deadly precision, and Eric and Saren combined their powers to create devastating attacks. Rimuru, holding the heart of Arcanes, unleashed beams of radiant light, striking at the Shadow Sovereign. But the dark figure absorbed the attacks, its power growing stronger with each moment. "We need to focus our power on the heart," Rimuru shouted. "Everyone, channel your energy into the heart of Arcanes." The Eclipse Order united their efforts, their combined magic flowing into the heart. The heart of Arcanes glowed brighter, its light pushing back against the darkness. But the Shadow Sovereign's power was immense, and it continued to press forward. As the battle raged on, Rimuru realized they needed to use the essence of the Guardians once more. "Everyone, we need the Guardians' power. Focus your energy on the heart and the essence of the Guardians." As they channeled their magic, the heart of Arcanes glowed even brighter. The essence of the Guardians merged with their own power, creating a beam of pure, radiant energy. Rimuru directed the beam at the Shadow Sovereign, its dark form wavering under the assault. The Shadow Sovereign screamed, its dark energy unraveling. "No, this cannot be. The darkness will return." With a final, concentrated blast, the Shadow Sovereign disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the night. The remaining dark creatures vanished, leaving the battlefield silent and still. Breathing heavily, Kale looked around. "Is it over?" Eldrick, holding the codex, shook his head. "The Shadow Sovereign is defeated, but the true darkness is still out there. We've delayed it, but we haven't defeated it yet." Rimuru, feeling the heart of Arcanes' pulse in his hand, knew Eldrick was right. The final confrontation was still to come, and they needed to be ready. As they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a sense of determination filled the Eclipse Order. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the true test was still ahead. The final battle was approaching, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance. Later that night, Rimuru stood on the ramparts, gazing out at the darkened forest. He could feel the lingering presence of the true darkness, a chilling reminder that their fight was far from over. As the wind whispered through the trees, he heard a voice, faint but unmistakable. "Rimuru, you cannot escape your fate. The darkness is eternal." Rimuru's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." Chapter 28. Secrets unveiled. With the Shadow Sovereign defeated, the Eclipse Order enjoyed a brief respite. However, Rimuru and his allies knew they had merely won a battle in a much larger war. The true darkness was still out there, waiting for its chance to strike. Determined to uncover more about their enemy, Rimuru decided to delve deeper into the history and origins of the Shadows. Rimuru called for a meeting with Eldrick, Lyria, and Alara in the sanctuary. The Codex of Shadows lay open on the table, its ancient pages filled with cryptic symbols and hidden knowledge. "Eldrick, have we deciphered any new information from the Codex?" Rimuru asked. Eldrick nodded, his eyes serious. "I found references to an ancient prophecy, one that speaks of the rise of the true darkness. It mentions a Heart of Shadows, a powerful artifact that could be the source of the dark energy we've been fighting." Lyria added, "The prophecy also hints at a hidden sanctuary, a place where the Heart of Shadows is kept. If we can find this sanctuary and destroy the artifact, we might be able to stop the true darkness for good." Alara leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Do we have any idea where this sanctuary might be?" Eldrick pointed to a map spread out on the table. "I've narrowed it down to a few possible locations. All of them are ancient, abandoned temples hidden deep within the forest." Rimuru studied the map. "We need to investigate these locations and find the Heart of Shadows. It's our best chance to defeat the true darkness once and for all." The Eclipse Order prepared for their expedition, splitting into smaller teams to cover more ground. Rimuru led one group, while Alara, Kale, Eldrick, and Lyria led the others. Their mission was clear: locate the hidden sanctuary and destroy the Heart of Shadows. Rimuru's team ventured deep into the forest, the dense foliage and ancient trees creating an eerie atmosphere. As they pressed on, they encountered remnants of old temples, their walls covered in vines and moss. "We're getting close," Rimuru said, sensing the dark energy growing stronger. The heart of Arcanes pulsed in response, guiding them forward. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a hidden entrance, partially concealed by overgrown vegetation. Rimuru pushed aside the vines, revealing a dark tunnel leading into the depths of the earth. "This must be it," Rimuru said, his voice echoing in the tunnel. "Stay alert. We don't know what traps or guardians might be waiting for us." As they ventured deeper into the tunnel, the air grew colder and the darkness more oppressive. The walls were lined with ancient runes, glowing faintly with dark energy. Rimuru could feel the presence of the Heart of Shadows growing stronger with each step. They emerged into a vast underground chamber, its ceiling supported by towering pillars. At the center of the chamber stood an ornate pedestal, and atop it rested a dark crystal, the Heart of Shadows. "There it is," Rimuru said, his voice barely a whisper. "The Heart of Shadows." Before they could approach, a dark figure materialized before them. It was a guardian, a powerful entity bound to protect the Heart of Shadows. Its eyes glowed with malevolence, and a chilling aura surrounded it. "You shall not touch the Heart of Shadows," the guardian intoned. "The darkness will consume you all." Rimuru and his team prepared for battle, their weapons and magic at the ready. The guardian attacked with ferocity, its dark energy clashing against their defenses. Rimuru focused the power of the Heart of Arcanes, creating a barrier of light to protect his team. "We need to work together," Rimuru shouted. "Focus your attacks on the guardian." The team launched a coordinated assault, their combined powers striking the guardian with devastating force. But the guardian was resilient, its dark energy regenerating with each hit. "We're not making a dent," Kale exclaimed, frustration evident in his voice. Eldrick, holding the codex, quickly scanned its pages. "The guardian is drawing power from the Heart of Shadows. We need to sever that connection." Rimuru nodded. "Alara, Kale, keep the guardian occupied. Lyria and I will try to disrupt its connection to the Heart of Shadows." As Alara and Kale engaged the guardian in a fierce battle, Rimuru and Lyria approached the pedestal. The dark crystal pulsed with malevolent energy, and Rimuru could feel its corrupting influence trying to invade his mind. "We need to purify it," Lyria said, her voice steady. "Focus the light of the Heart of Arcanes on the crystal." Rimuru raised the Heart of Arcanes, its radiant light bathing the dark crystal. The Heart of Shadows shuddered, its dark energy clashing with the purifying light. Lyria joined in, her magic amplifying the effect. The guardian screamed, its connection to the Heart of Shadows weakening. "No, this cannot be." With a final, concentrated effort, Rimuru and Lyria unleashed a powerful burst of light, shattering the dark crystal. The Heart of Shadows disintegrated, its dark energy dissipating into the ether. The guardian, now severed from its source of power, crumbled to the ground, its dark form dissolving into nothingness. The chamber fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifted. Breathing heavily, Rimuru turned to his team. "We did it. The Heart of Shadows is destroyed." Lyria smiled, relief evident in her eyes. "The true darkness has lost its source of power. We've struck a significant blow." As they regrouped and prepared to leave the chamber, a sense of accomplishment filled the Eclipse Order. They had uncovered the secrets of the shadows and destroyed a powerful artifact, but the true test was still ahead. Outside the hidden sanctuary, the forest was eerily quiet. Rimuru felt a strange sensation, as if the darkness was watching them, biding its time. "Stay alert," Rimuru said, his voice firm. "The true darkness may have lost its source of power, but it's still out there. We need to be ready for anything." As they made their way back to the base, Rimuru couldn't shake the feeling that their final confrontation was drawing near. The storm was gathering, and the fate of their realm hung in the balance.